Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on February 25th, 2025. The time is 6:05 p.m. here at the Central Unified School District Office, Room 13. As we call the meeting to order, we are missing Trustee Kerfon currently. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Sellers. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Yeah. Those abstaining, motion carries 6-0. We move on to comments from the public on any closed session items. We'll pause for a few seconds for a call, or anyone wishing to comment on any of the closed session items. The phone number for those that may be viewing is area code 559-276-3150. Area code 559-276-3150. And we are joined by Clerk Kerfon at 6:06 p.m.
Board President, 30 seconds have passed and there's no callers at this time.
So that we will adjourn to closed session and return back at 7 p.m. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Central Unified. Today is February 25th, 2025. The time is 7:04 p.m. Our report out from closed session on item E2, we had a motion by Trustee Kerfan, a second by Trustee Kirk. Item passed 7-0. On item E3, we had a motion by Trustee Carrillo, a second by Trustee Kerfan. Motion passed 7-0. And with that, I will ask Vice President Carrillo to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
Thank you. And next, we invite up for our community engagement information, Senor Lazo.
Good evening. If you wish to address the board, please call 559-276-3150 or fill out a request form provided on the table near the entrance and submit it to the clerk of the board prior to the meeting. If you wish to speak on an item on the agenda, please do so when that item is called. If you wish to speak on an item not on the agenda, you may speak during the public comment section of the agenda. Si desea dirigirse a la mesa directiva, llame al número 559-276-3150 o complete un formulario de solicitud provisto en la mesa cerca de la entrada y preséntelo al secretario de la mesa directiva antes de la reunión. Se permitirán comentarios públicos relacionados con los temas de la agenda cuando se llame el tema. Los comentarios públicos sobre un tema que no esté en la agenda se permitirán durante la sección de comentarios públicos de la agenda. The district welcomes other language speakers to the board meetings. Anyone planning to attend and needing an interpreter for a language other than Spanish should call 559-274-4700, extension 10150, by noon on the Friday preceding the board meeting, or at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting, so arrangements can be made for an interpreter. El distrito da la bienvenida a las personas que hablan otros idiomas a las reuniones de la mesa directiva. Cualquier persona que planifique asistir y necesite un intérprete para un idioma que no sea español, llame al 559-274-4700, extensión 10150, el viernes antes de la reunión y antes del mediodía, o por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión para poder hacer los arreglos para la interpretación.
Thank you. Next, we invite Sardar Manjinder Sekho.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਰਡ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਬੋਧਿਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ 559-276-3150 ਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਜਾਂ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਟੇਬਲ ਤੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਫਾਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਭਰੋ ਅਤੇ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਕਲਰਕ ਕੋਲ ਜਮ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਰੋ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਤੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਤੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਦੇ ਜਨਤਕ ਟਿੱਪਣੀ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਅਜਿਹਾ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸਾਡਾ ਜ਼ਿਲ੍ਹਾ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੀਟਿੰਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਬੋਲਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਬਣਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼ ਜਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਲਈ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਟਰ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸ਼ੁੱਕਰਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਦੁਪਹਿਰ ਤੱਕ ਜਾਂ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ 48 ਘੰਟੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 559-274-4700 ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ 10150 ਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਟਰ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
Thank you. Next, we turn to our presentations with our first recognition of Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month with Assistant Superintendent Dr. Lopez.
Good evening, Board President Singh, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Davis. Each March, the National Association of Councils of Developmental Disabilities, NACCD, and its partners work together to create a social media campaign that highlights the many ways in which people with or without disabilities come together to form strong, diverse communities. We are waiting on the video right now. The campaign seeks to raise awareness about the inclusion of people with developmental disabilities in all facets of community life, as well as awareness of the barriers that people with disabilities still sometimes face and connecting to the communities in which they live. I am excited today to showcase a video from our turkey trot. This is just an example of one opportunity that we provide to the community, but I also attached as well a list of all the events that you're welcome to attend to view our students participate in any of these events.
Thank you. Next, we turn to our next presentation with Joe Dolan and Executive Director Serena Dohe for the Foundation of Central Schools.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening, Board of Trustees, and thank you for having me. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Serena Dohe, and I am the Executive Director for the Foundation for Central Schools. Also present tonight is our Foundation Board President, Mr. Joe Doylan, who I'd like to acknowledge in the room as well. And we're absolutely blown away and thankful for the incredible responses to this year's scholarship program. I'd like to say thank you to the 178 amazing people who put their hearts into their application this year. It's a huge record for us. So thank you. Each one of you made our decision both wonderful and challenging. We're thrilled to share that we'll be helping 26 bright minds pursue their dreams this year. A mix of graduating seniors, Central employees, and proud Central alumni. When we think back to where we were just 5 years ago with only 6 scholarships, it's amazing to see how far we've come. Growing to 26 scholarships shows just how much our community continues to support and believe in education. And we cannot wait to celebrate our scholarship recipients at our annual award ceremony on April 3rd. It's going to be such a special evening, and I hope you will all join us. I went ahead and placed an invitation on your areas for those of you that will be attending for the first time. So save the date, April 3rd. It will be at Pardini's this year, so we're looking forward to great food. And we'll also have a special former scholar panel, which will be very interactive. We have ABC 30 host Jessica Harrington joining us to facilitate a conversation to give our community members and stakeholders a closer look as to what these scholarships have done and the type of students that we are producing here in Central Unified. Next, I'd like to highlight a few of our clothing closets across the district. Just a little history. The foundation started with the clothing closets several years ago over at Houghton Kearney K through 8th school. Principal had an idea and the foundation jumped on it. And we now have a growing amount of clothing closets in the district. And I'd like to highlight just a couple of data and success stories. So Houghton Kearney this school year so far has provided over 100 clothing items for their students and their neighboring schools like El Capitan and Pathway. Central East, which is very unique, is a career clothing closet, and they have provided support for over 70 students this year, from senior photos to conferences, formal, and job interviews. We've also provided support for FFA, including mandatory outfits like jackets and slacks and dress shoes. And at Steinbeck Elementary, assisting over 35 students, these closets provide more than clothes. They give our students confidence when our kids need to feel good and not worry. And they can really focus on what matters, which is learning in our classrooms. So we are thankful for our partnerships with the Assistance League of Fresno for helping us get all of these closets off the ground. What's really beautiful about our closets is that these are new clothes. They are brand new, and these kids are the first owners of them. So we're really glad to be able to offer that to them. Next up will be the completion of the closet at Pathway Community Day School, which will also be shared with Pershing Continuation. So we're very excited about that. The next highlight I'd like to share with you is our T Community Food Pantry. We are in its second year of operation, and it is thriving. Over the last 2 months, myself and Christina Rodriguez, who is here with us from Student and Family Services, along with Dr. Lopez, we've pivoted to offer amazing services to accommodate families and changes. So this month alone, we've helped 80 households, and families are receiving items like 1 to 2 cartons of eggs, meat or frozen food item, 2 loaves of bread, various snacks, 10 to 15 non-perishable items, including shelf-stable milk and produce. This month, we featured bananas, broccoli, and our very own Central High School lemons and mandarins. So we're very excited to offer local produce that's grown right here by our students. So with the pivot and changes, we are now offering appointment-based shopping experiences, which allows privacy and convenience for our families. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be launching an online ordering platform similar to Instacart or DoorDash. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. And families will be able to pick up food during our pickup hours. We are also working hand in hand with our family outreach liaisons to provide that extra care when needed. So again, I can't stress about the platform providing convenience and privacy for our families. So a big thank you to Student and Family Services team, especially our family outreach liaisons. Our next board meeting will be April 30th. Community members can find information about us on our website, centralfoundation.org. We are under a bit of an upgrade, so some things may look a little confusing. If you personally have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I do look forward to seeing you all on April 3rd to celebrate our scholarship recipients. I'd like to just take a moment and invite our board president, Joe Doylan, to join me at the podium.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Joe Doyle, and I'm the board president for the Foundation for Central Schools once again. I've been on this board for quite a few many years, and I am, guess, the tenure senior on this board of directors that the foundation has. I haven't had the opportunity to meet all of you yet. I do look forward to meeting with you, and if you ever have any questions or like to talk about the history of the board or what the board is planning to do. I'd also like to thank this board of trustees for the best thing that's probably ever helped this foundation was the hiring of Serena Dohe. In the last 5 years, this foundation has grown by leaps and bounds. I'm going to say about probably over 3.5% to 4%, or 4 times full that this foundation has grown, and we are being able to expand on the programs that we had. The clothing closet, the food pantries, and something would never have been imagined probably about 5 years ago. And it's because of Serena's hard work and dedication that we have these type of programs now here at Central Unified, not only for our students, but for the families and communities of this district. It's something that's very widely needed. But this foundation has been around for a long period of time, like you have known, but we really do encourage this Board of Trustees to visit our board meetings, like the next one will be on the 30th. It's open to the public, but we'd like to have those conversations, and we'd like to hear input from the Board of Trustees. President Nadeep has been excellent by his attendance and giving some information and different types of direction when we're needed. Same thing with Superintendent Ketty. She has been one of our largest rock stars for this foundation since she's been superintendent of the school district. So, but on that note, we look forward to all of you attending the scholarship dinner. I will say for the first time in many, many years, or first time ever, this last year in 24, I had a young man just rock my world when it came to his story. And is he going to be coming?
He is.
So we will be having, he'll be a part of that panel?
Emilio Martinez.
Emilio, yeah, that's the gentleman. He was amazing. His story took me down to tears the day we did an interview. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. And it'll be very interesting to see where these students are after the fact, after they've received our scholarship, and to see what type of progress they have made and where they are headed in the future. So we hope that you are all able to attend that event. Come on April 3rd. We've kind of upgraded it to Pardini's, and it's probably going to be pretty full from what I understand. We've had a good turnout these last several years. But anyway, thank you very much to this board. I'd really like to thank you for what you guys have put to and your dedication into this foundation. And we continue to look to grow year in and year out because of Serena. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
And with that, thank you, and please let me know if you guys have any questions.
Trustee Crefon? I'm sorry, Trustee Creel?
I have a couple of questions, but I just want to echo what President Doyle said, and just to remind, especially as the composition of our board changes and new board members join us, the decision, which was not, I don't think it was unanimous, or maybe at some point it. No, it was. Thank you. It was not unanimous by the board, but I will say I supported funding that position, and it's really been incredible. Not only to be so fortunate to have Serena be in that position, but just the value of that position and our contribution to the foundation. And so, as we continue, and I know I say this every year because I want to make sure that our minutes reflect that, and there's a clear institutional knowledge of why we made that decision, because we knew in the potential and the need for our students to have the support, the scholarships you heard from 6 to 26 now. Yes. And then the development of the pantry, the closets, all these things are things that our community needs. And it's incredible to have someone who will lead that charge and really listens to the needs of our community and advocates. Our board president does serve on the foundation, as well as our superintendent. Those are mandatory positions. And so if any of you are ever interested, I encourage you to attend their scheduled meetings. So I have 2 questions. I'm glad to hear that we're thinking about other opportunities to ensure that our families feel safe when they're taking advantage of the pantry. I hope that, and if you can speak to it now, but if you can't, moving forward for the online platform, I anticipate that many of our families who are probably accessing the pantry may not have access to technology or may not be the most savvy, so making sure that we have other ways of using our community liaisons, or that you and your staff or that any of us can help support that to make sure that that doesn't create a gap or a barrier for our families. I don't know if you guys have thought about that and you can speak to
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We're already one step ahead. So with Student and Family Services now being a full department, myself and Christina meet regularly and are probably 2 steps ahead of everything we can possibly think of. And our family outreach liaisons are able to assist our families with those appointments, and they're making them for them, and or they're scheduling their appointment with them and going hand in hand. We are offering delivery for those that need that extra comfort as well. So we're already on that. And then the school sites that don't have liaisons, we already have that next liaison nearby who is assisting them. So definitely we have those services in place already.
Okay. So I assume community liaisons because we have vacancies, not because, okay. Because that was one of the decisions that the previous board made. So the private appointments, do we offer them like at various hours? I think the last time you presented, we had very limited hours. And if I remember correctly, very little, if any, availability like after 5. And I don't know what our family's availability is to be able to attend or be there during business hours. Have we expanded that?
We have,
Okay.
yes. So as we moved into the appointment system, we have been seeing hours from on Wednesdays, since that's early dismissal over at Teague. So it's a larger parking area as well. So we have appointments starting as early as 12:30, which is normally going to be our employees and staff members. We like to make sure they have convenience and can come over, whether it's a lunchtime or their early dismissal. And then we lead into appointments for families. And then that's going until about 5:45, 6 o'clock. And then those that are not showing up for their appointments, our family outreach liaison, Jessica Gonzalez, has been on the forefront of following up. She's been really great about that piece for us. So there are some services taking place to help us accommodate those hours, whether it's a work schedule or transportation for the families that need it. But yes, the hours have been extended, and with this new order ahead platform, they'll be able to order when the window opens, and that window will open perhaps 4 days at any time, and then that pickup window will happen, let's say Wednesday evening from 4 to 6 p.m., and then if they cannot make it, they can write us a memo and say, I need other accommodations. And so that's the luxury of it, is that we'll be able to get some feedback. And of course, there'll be some growing pains at the beginning, but I think with all the support, we'll be able to manage and adjust quickly.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for all the great work that you're doing. And President Doyle, thank you for coming back and continuing to serve as part of the foundation. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Excellent work. Thank you. Thank you again for both of you for joining this evening. Next, we invite for our Employee Association highlights our Central Unified Teachers Association President, Laura Bolton.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so the first thing I want to share with you is something that many of you are probably aware of, but it's important to make sure that the community understands, and that includes all the parents, the students, the teachers, and all of the support staff on campuses, that Ramadan is coming on Friday. We will have an entire month where some of our staff members and our students will possibly be observing Ramadan and fasting during daylight hours. So that's really important to understand, because that can affect our students and the way that they interact with the learning environment. I sent out an email using a flyer and like a video that was put together by one of our teachers at Garza, Rania Ayash. She's amazing. But it has some tips about what our teachers and our staff members, people on campus, can do it really affects them by the afternoon when they're starting to get tired, energy levels dip. They may become sleepy, thirsty. Their concentration might be off. They may become quiet and less interactive. So keeping in mind some things to make them comfortable, like alternatives to physical activity during PE, that they can still be active but maybe not work as much energy up. Giving them a different place to go during lunchtime instead of the cafeteria where everyone around them is eating, and allowing them to take breaks so they can stay comfortable. There's more tips and things on there, so you can look for my email. And I know that this has been shared out as well pretty widely. So I want to thank Rania again. She's awesome. I also want to give you a brief just update on where we are with bargaining. And I don't really want to talk about money. Salary increases are not really a major focus of the bargain this year. It's more about additional supports on our side that we're trying to attain. So the district is asking for an additional hour of extended PD time on principal Wednesdays, but this is after we've just added 2 additional PD days, full PD days to the calendar year just this year. The district is asking for an increase to the employee health insurance premiums from $221.18 per month that we currently pay to $622.18 per month. This would take us from being one of the most affordable and attractive health plans in the area to one of the most expensive. The district is also wanting to rewrite the PAR article. The PAR article is actually something that we are in full support of. We are in agreement. This is something that we are actively collaborating on, and we really, really want to make this change worth the time and effort and be very, very good for our teachers and other staff members. PAR is, it stands for Peer Assistance Review, and it's a support system for struggling educators. And we really do see this as a good thing, and it needs to be recognized that we're on the same page with this. CUDA is asking for support for our SPED department in the form of prep time to complete compliance tasks so we don't continue to fail audits, additional speech and language pathologist support, smaller grade spans in classrooms, so meaning like instead of TK3, maybe 1 to 3. And also no more blended programs, for instance, RSP together with SDC or SDC with FLS for the same teacher, the same educator. That is incredibly difficult and wasn't happening prior to this year. CUDA is asking for more support for our EL students, our English learners, in particular our newcomers. We want to add 3 secondary and 2 elementary newcomer instructional coaches, which we were trying to add last year. We were actually down to just 1 last year, but we're really seeing the need continuing, so we're asking for additional ones. We didn't get the 1 last year, and we really do think that it's necessary. And we're asking for push-in aid support in our secondary sites for students that show up to the country with very low English level in high school. And then CUDA is asking for expansion of specialized alternative ed classrooms in elementary and secondary. This would add 2 more classrooms to elementary and possibly 1 or 2 to high school to support our students with some serious behavior challenges that need a more supportive environment, more structure, so they can relearn behaviors and get back into the gen ed classroom and be successful. It is important to understand. Oh, one more. CUDA is asking for social workers in our secondary schools to coordinate 504 plans and SST meetings for our struggling students who need support and accommodations to be academically successful. It's important to understand that the district does receive additional money to provide additional support for our English learners, foster students, unhoused students, and low SES students. These are known as the unduplicated students. These funds are meant to be spent on these kids, and our feedback year after year in the LCAP surveys and feedback sessions is that we need this support, and yet it is extremely slow to be provided. So please keep in mind that these are our tax dollars, my tax dollars. I live in the district, I pay taxes, and they should be going to these services for these students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we invite our California School Employees Association President, Angie Geary.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Ketty. I don't have a lot. I only have one item I want to follow up with, our job study. We were at a standstill because we wanted the new reports because it's been so long, so we need an updated salary schedule. So we're hoping to get back at the table in early March so we can be done by end of April. We're very positive that we can get to the end of this. It's been a long 3 years, most of you know, so we're hoping we can get done with it. We're pretty close, but we needed some other figures on both sides, and we've collectively decided to get the new figures so we can move forward. That way unlike Laura, we haven't started the real negotiations yet, so we're really behind. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. We now turn to our school reports with our first report coming from Principal Mills about Soroyan Elementary School.
Good evening, President Singh, members of the board, and Superintendent Davis. My name is Joelle Mills, and I'm honored to be the principal at Soroyan Elementary School. We have had a wonderful year so far. Lots of great things have been happening. We're looking forward to continuing our hard work through the last day of school. I'm really happy to be here tonight to share some highlights and talk about some of the great things that have been happening at Soroyan this year. So first off, with our academic celebrations, our iReady scores, we rose from 26.4% proficiency in the fall of this year to 44.5% proficiency in the winter, which is also up over 4.5% from the winter of last year. Our iReady math scores this year, 14.5% proficiency in the fall, and we have risen to 32.9% proficiency this winter. So we've grown over 18% in both areas, and we are up about 5.5% in math from the winter of last year. Our English Language Proficiency Index, our ELPI score, our English learners increased significantly on the LPAC summative assessment, showing growth from, we were below 35%, so we were in that bottom red corner on the graph, to 75%. So we were up in that blue box, and we did have the highest growth in the district this year. So we're really, really pleased with that. For opportunities, we've really been working on refining our PLC practices, focusing on our essential standards and raising that rigor of not only our teaching, but our assignments and our assessments, so that we really are getting a true picture of our students' progress towards mastery of standards. We've also aligned our SLT meetings, our site leadership team meetings, with the systems that we've put in place with our PLCs, so that we've increased our time for not only celebrations from each grade level, but also some more data analysis, so that we can look at as a whole to make decisions. One of the things that we definitely wanted to focus on this year was increasing writing instruction and writing opportunities for all students. The data from our SBAC last year showed that 60% of our students are not writing with detail and or sufficient evidence. So we went through every student SBAC report to see, where we were falling short, and that was something that we noticed that we needed across the board. So we've been working with the teachers on providing opportunities across all subject areas. We've been working with the students on organization of their writing, and then including those details and text evidence. I've personally taught some model lessons in classrooms. I took Superintendent Davis's challenge. So I've actually taught in 2 fifth grade classrooms this week. The kids have been very responsive, and it's just been a lot of instruction on how they can take their thoughts from paper and organize it, and then really go back and take a look to make sure they have those details. So we've seen a really good increase in students' independent writing, and it's been across the board. So we're looking forward to continuing to work on writing. For engagement, our current student attendance rate is 93.5%, and then our chronic absenteeism rate is 21.8%. Both of those are definitely areas of concern because we all know that students can't learn if they're not in school. So we definitely have been working with our students and our parents, our family outreach liaison and our counselor have really been working hard to ensure that our students are in school. I know we've had some students who have had some social emotional issues with wanting to get to school, so we definitely have made sure that they have a mentor on campus and someone to talk to and just to have that support throughout the day. So what's been working for us again, our family outreach liaison and our counselor have started to make phone calls pretty quickly once a student gets to 5 absences or more, or we see a large amount of tardies. We get parents on the phone, we have them come in for a meeting, and our goal really is how can we support you and how can we support the student to come to school and to be successful and feel safe at school. Something new that we started this year was attendance awards. We had a lot of discussion amongst our staff about attendance awards, and so we decided that we were going to provide awards for students who are at 96% or higher, or those students who have improved by 5%. We do want to recognize those students who are making an effort to come to school, and so that's something that we've done as well. And then we've tried to do some surprise attendance incentives along the way, just so that just as a way to get students to come to school. We've definitely increased our parent engagement. We have a new PFC, and they've already hosted 4 successful events. So we've definitely had some very good things happening on campus. This next slide was important to me. I know I had a lot of conversations with Mr. Garrett last year when he was my supervisor about listening to our community. So our feedback from the 23-24 school year indicated that parents and guardians wanted more field trips and experiences for students. So that was one of our goals for this year, was to increase those opportunities. So this year, by the end of the year, each grade level will have had at least one field trip and or on-campus experience by the end of the school year. So our TK kinders have gone to the pumpkin patch. First grade is going to Scout Island. Second grade is going to have an on-campus zoo-mobile. Third grade's going to the zoo. Fourth grade, we already had the Gold Rush people come on campus, and then they're also going to head to the Fresno Flats Museum. Fifth grade, we have the San Jose Tech Museum, and then we have a Pioneer Day coming on campus. And then for sixth grade, of course, Wonder Valley sixth grade camp, we wanted to use some of our Prop 28 money for art, so we're going to give them an art experience by having a pottery day on campus, and then they'll have their island water park as well. So with accountability and continued improvement, again, we're still working towards increasing the rigor of our instruction, our classwork, and our assessments, aligning those to the standards. We are definitely wanting to include more writing, and we have structured our data review for Tier 1 and Tier 2, so we can provide those instruction and interventions, and we've been focusing on our IABs and FIABs. So those have been the focus of our conversations during our PLC meetings, and then we focused a lot on data review with our solution tree person as well. For professional support, we're working on aligning everything, the cultural inclusivity and our EL instruction. We've been providing our teachers with specific feedback from our drop-ins. We do have teaching fellows in all grades 1 and 2 and in the reading lab, and then we also have an extra certificated substitute to provide intervention for ELA. Making it count for kids. We always follow our triple RS standards. So we started off the year with Passport Day to go over those expectations, and then we did have another Passport Day in January just to review those expectations and start that second half of the year off on a great step. This isn't in the slide, but I added it today because we just found out yesterday or the day before that we are a 2024 California PBIS Silver Implementation Award. So we received that in the banner. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that we're going to gear up to get ready to do is we do have our SBAC buddy classrooms. So each one of our primary classrooms pairs up with an intermediate classroom during SBAC testing, and they make little banners and cards and leave little notes for them just to give them some encouragement. You know, you can do it, and it really has been a success, and the little kids really like it a lot. And then of course, our intermediate students feel really special and they appreciate it. It's just kind of a way to get that community feeling in with all the kids. For our professional development and growth, obviously we've been working with Solution Tree for a couple of years. I feel that it's really made a big difference in just the way that we have approached, especially our data analysis and how we can use that data to drive instruction. We have several teachers that are taking the letters training. I'm taking it myself as well, alongside my teachers. And then we wanted to tap into the wonderful people and the expertise that we have in the district as well. So we have had Aaron English come on campus 3 times this year to do some professional development with our teachers and staff on safe classroom spaces, as well as some academic and social strategies for cultural inclusion and how to get kids to share and make them comfortable in the classroom. She actually used to be my vice principal when I first started, so she's been a welcome face on campus, and the teachers have really responded to her. And then, again, with our EL professional development, we've had Cindy Eskindone come on campus to provide some PD, and we have done some collaborative walkthroughs with her. Myself and Charles, my vice principal, have walked classrooms with her, and so we've kind of calibrated, you know, what do we see during that structured ELD time, but what do we see just embedded throughout the day where those supports are there for our ELD students. And we're lucky to have Miss Marcy Brecky housed on our campus, and so she's been a big help with our newcomers as well. Any questions that I can answer for you? Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to present.
Well, let me give you a little bit of kudos. Really appreciate the thoroughness, just the type of things Principal knows you guys are doing at Soroyan. I mean, just the remarkable growth is absolutely stunning, and keep up the amazing work.
Thank you. That's attributed to the teachers.
Absolutely.
They have really worked hard, and we appreciate all of their hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Kirk?
Before we let you go, I was really impressed with the listening to our community part, listening to what our families want for our kids, and what you've done to provide these opportunities for every grade level is very impressive, and so thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you. Next, we'd like to invite Principal Young to learn about Persian Continuation Pathway Community Day School.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Board President Singh Chan, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Davis. My name is Jill Young, and I have the pleasure of being the principal of 4 different schools on the same site for Central Unified. So the first school is Persian Continuation High School. It's our largest school. It has about 100 students right now. And it is for students that are 16 or over, and our focus is credit retrieval. The next school that we have is Pershing Opportunity, which is one class of 15 or less students that are under 16. And we really focus with them on earning their original credits because they're 9th and 10th graders. And then we have Pathway Community Day School, which is 7-12. And then we have Pathway Elementary, which is K-6. So, I'm supposed to do this, huh? Okay. On it. Okay.
So celebrations, I know you guys have seen my presentation, so I'm just going to point out something on each page. I'm going to talk about something on each page. And then I welcome any questions for anything that I missed. But for celebrations, this data is from Pershing. And honestly, our graduation rate is one of our more important things that we really focus on. All of the data feeds into what making them graduate. But for us, it's been going up every year, and that is super important because that's our goal, is to get students who didn't think they could graduate to the graduation line and to prove to them that they can be students. And so we work really hard, and we're working really hard this year to get to the next level. Engagement, I'm going to talk about attendance on this one. Honestly, our attendance is never where I wish it would be. It makes sense because we get a lot of students who haven't been doing well. So they're not coming to school. They come to us. We've got to change that. But this year especially, it's been low, and it's down. I mean, when I look at chronically absent is up 17%, that keeps me up at night. And so what we've been doing, we've been really talking to kids, talking to parents, trying to figure out, like what's driving the change. The top 3 things that I hear: I'm not feeling well. I hear that a lot. I just couldn't get up, mental health. I just couldn't get out of bed today. And a lot of, I missed the bus. I don't have a ride. Or they miss the bus and they come in late. They will come in at some point. And so what we're doing about it, number one, we know when we have activities on campus, it goes up. We know that we see it every day. But also we have a team that is working on attendance. We generally work on about the top 10 at a time, not the most absent kids, but 10 students that are showing up, some that we're trying to work on getting them to show up more. And since we've had Project Stealth, they've already jumped on board. They're already working on certain kids that aren't even on our 10 list. So what we do is divide them up, and everybody takes a student and we work on them. How do we get you here? What do you need from us? How do we help you be successful? And it's just something that we're working on. And so for a minute, I wanted to, since we have new board members, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Pathway. There isn't a lot of data associated with Pathway. When you look at the dashboard, they don't have color because the population is just too small to have any meaningful data. And generally, they're not the same kids from year to year. Pershing, there's a quotient of kids that stay with us for a year and a half or 2 years. But Pathway doesn't have that. So one of the things I wanted to point out about Pathway is that most of the time what we notice is there are holes in the academics. And you really have to start plugging those holes as part of helping them with behavior. We've got to plug the holes that they have, and we've got to keep them on grade level. And so that is a big focus. Pathway is they don't bring their phones to school. It's amazing, you guys. They don't complain. They're not sitting there going, oh, I wish I had my phone. They're busy. They're doing schoolwork. They're not worried about the drama of I'm going to get a message and what's it going to say. It's great. And I've been there for 11 years. I've watched it for 11 years. It's fabulous. They talk to each other. They tell stories. They play card games. It's fabulous. Anyways, I digress. Sorry. So accountability and continuous improvement. We are always trying to improve. There's always more stuff we can do. So what I want to tell you guys about is our dual enrollment class. We tried it with Fresno City College in 2017. and it wasn't very successful. The kids were going to City College. Not too many of them actually finished the class. At that time, I was vice principal, and I kind of felt like, are we asking too much of struggling high school students to do college? But then last year, as I'm reading stuff, I'm seeing continuation schools that are taking classes at Brown University and passing them. Okay, what are they doing? So I started researching. I started talking to other principals that are in the area and realized we need to have that class on campus. So we started this spring semester. We have 15 students. They're taking counseling 53, being taught by a staff member, and I have a teacher supporting that class as well. And the kids were so excited. They tell me they feel like adults when they're in that class. And we're also learning that they really didn't know a lot about college and what their options were. And so that helps us overall. But I know this class is going to be successful because I'm watching it, and I'm so excited by it. Making it count for kids. Did I skip something? No, I didn't. This is the last one. Okay. So big thing for us is, my personal quote to the kids, I tell them all the time, life is about experiences. When the academic team was competing, when I saw them the morning before they had to take tests, and they were like, what if we don't know? I was like, you guys, this is an experience. Go have it. Meet kids you've never met before. Have a fun day. Super quiz, super fun. They ended up doing really well, okay? It's about experiences. This year, for the first time, we took, using the art money, the art grant, we took our art class to the Getty Museum. I don't know why I was worried. I was worried, are they gonna like a museum? They loved it. And now they're studying artists, and a lot of them have picked things that they saw at the museum. They were also terrified when LA was on fire that the Getty Museum was burning. So, we work really hard to get the whole child. So I want to end with just a little success story. I want to tell you about student A. Student A came to us at the beginning of last year, and when they came, at orientation, I remember clearly talking to their parents, and the parents said, they're probably not going to come to school. They haven't been going to school. And it started out, first couple days, they had lots of friends. I was really hopeful, but then we started seeing them less and less. Well, all of a sudden, there was a 6-week period where they didn't come at all. They didn't want to come. Our mentors went out, the district office went out, staff went to their house, and we got the student to come back. And at some point, one of my teachers noticed, this student loves plants. And after working with the student for a while, the teacher comes back and says, I'm going to make them the greenhouse manager. Okay, I think that's great. Let's do it. He's like, is it okay if I do that? Yeah, let's do that. We start seeing this student more. It wasn't perfect, but this student started going on field trips. They joined FFA. They went to state conference with us for FFA. And they ended the year with a 73% attendance rate, which was way better than what they had been seeing before. This year, I was a little worried because they were going to be a possible non-grad due to the number of credits they had. But at some point, they said, you know what? I know I may not graduate this year, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to learn. I'm going to get as many credits as I can, and I'm going to have fun. And they have. And you know what? They're no longer in the numerically impossible to graduate category. They are so close to being on track. And it's them. They've done the work. But these are the kinds of things that we get to do on a daily basis with really amazing kids. And it's not one person, it's not two, it's the whole team, including Mr. Garrett, okay, who come together to make a great experience for kids who really need it. And that's all I have to say.
Questions for Principal Young? It's Trustee Kirk and then Trustee Sidhu.
Good evening, Principal Young. Thank you so much for your presentation tonight. Pardon me. I would like to, you talked a little bit about dual enrollment, so I'd like to take maybe a moment to help our community understand the difference between dual enrollment and high school enrichment. So dual enrollment, specifically Assembly Bill 359, was aimed at students in the high school level who potentially would not think about going to college, who were not on track to graduate, to give them that exposure to college and let them know you're absolutely the material we want. So I'm very happy to hear that the Counseling 53 class, which I think is an excellent class to get you to understand what it means to go to college. So I'll be happy to hear how the students deal for that. And for our community, the difference between that and high school enrichment, when you have a student who's a 3.0, 3.5 students who's taking the extra classes at a community college to make sure that they have the best opportunity when they graduate, that's a different type of process. And so our dual enrollment is really for our kids at Pershing, to let you know you're absolutely college material and we're ready for you when you're ready for us. So thank you for giving us a chance to talk about that.
Thank you.
Trustee Sidhu?
Yes, I just had, I was just curious on, like you said that you did some student activities that boosted attendance. I was just wondering what those activities were, and then, like ways to maybe increase the number of activities depending on what they are.
We have so many activities going on, sports especially, and even sports practices. Today the girls had basketball practice. No, they had a game today. Yesterday was practice. But the girls were all there to make sure that they were there for practice. Field trips, anything that's going on around campus. We definitely have kids that don't always show up, that show up for the things they want to be a part of. And so we're trying to figure out how to leverage that to make sure they're there every day so that they don't miss anything, because my teachers are really teaching, we need you to be there with us. And we miss them when they're not there.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Chavez?
So I see here that you had the Project Stealth listed.
Yes, ma'am.
So I didn't get the opportunity to ask you as a principal. Why was this chosen for the students? And I heard you mention it in a positive way. So just an opportunity to check in. How's that going?
Well, so far it's going great. They have hit the ground running. Right now they have 24 students on their caseload. And honestly, the mentorship is needed because not all students want to. We have lots of mental health resources, but not all students want to do that. So having counselors, having people that can work with them, that can set goals with them, that connect with them, that is so important. Those are people that they can turn to when they're having a bad day. And just having more options is always better. Plus, Project Stealth has the parent part too. And I know some of our parents are struggling to connect with their child. They want that support too. I have parents call me and ask, what do I do? We have some support there now. So I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Same. Thank you for sharing that.
Trustee Kirfan?
Sorry. Thank you, President Singh. Thank you for the presentation, Principal Young. I want to commend you for acknowledging how you had that issue with the dual enrollment program, but not just giving up, saying it's not for our site, researching what other districts are doing and how they're succeeding, and identifying how to make it work for your students. So I commend you for that. And also for you and your team, really caring for the whole child. It's a really important site to understand, have that kind of framework for caring for students. So I commend you for that. Just wanted to clarify, I was going to ask you about Project Stealth, but Trustee, my colleague over there already got it. So I want to ask about the attendance. So it said down 4.8%. Is that down as in like our attendance is dropping, or the attendance misattending is dropping?
No, our attendance rate is down 4.8% from last year.
I see.
Our average.
I see. Okay, all right. No further questions, then. Thank you.
Just want to appreciate you, Principal Young, for, sharing the data, sharing some individual stories, and just sharing all the things that you and your team are doing out there. So really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we open it to Superintendent Board Communications.
Okay, I've got a couple for you. I also wanted to tag on to the foundation presentation and thank our intervention specialists and our child welfare attendance office, who's doing a lot of the examples of what was shared as well. There's a lot of departments that are stepping in to make sure our families are getting their needs met where they've identified that they can benefit from that support. Laura shared earlier about Ramadan. Our sites are prepared. There's common adjustments that are made, spaces on campus that are available for students to go, activities to do during the lunch hour for all the students that don't want to be sitting in a lunchroom with smells of food. And starting this year, I want to commend our child nutrition team. They also have sent out a QR code to families and are sending home food that can be available to students after hours when it's appropriate for them to access nutrition. So I think our schools are ready for that. So thank you for mentioning that. A few other announcements for you as well. Registration starts next week for next school year. So kindergarten and transitional kindergarten. Remember, transitional kindergarten is open to our 4-year-olds. Registration is available online, so parents who don't want to come to campus physically and go through the documentation can go on to the parent link to new child registration and go through the process. You'll start to see a lot of advertising about it this week, and clear instructions also for Colorado Elementary and where families that are going to be the first students in TK and K of that campus will do their registration. They'll also find out about the K-Camp opportunity in the summer where students who have never been in school can do some orientation work. Thank you for everyone who participated last week in the recruitment process or the input process for our recruitment for Assistant Superintendent Human Resources and the Director of SPED positions. They are advertised. They are set to close March 6th. We'll keep you posted on that. The district website is being updated this summer. There's been a team of staff that have been looking at how the site is being used, where families go to get information, what information is mostly accessed, and what are the bugs and problems for people to get information. And so over the summer, there'll be a transition and some improvements to the site I want to make you aware of. But right around the corner, Jonathan and Olay are working on getting, by the end of this week, Colra's website up and going so information can begin to be available for families there. So that's really exciting. I also want to mention another communications activity that you'll start to see on media, so you're aware that it's coming. I commend our communications team. They've started the first ever internship program for communications. There are 12 talented students from Central High, Central East, Justin Garza, and Pershing Continuation who are meeting weekly after school with our communications team. They are involved in district-wide communication projects. Communication professionals are coming to meet with them to talk to them about areas of expertise that they're interested in, whether it's public affairs, media relations, marketing, journalism. And the interns are getting ready right now to launch some new features on media that I want you to watch for in the next month. There's a brand new video series that they will be doing. So once a month, there'll be a recap from across Central Unified Schools that is a student-produced media. And then in mid-March, there'll also be a publication that is shared out in multiple formats that where students are doing a print version across digital media where they spotlight a current student, a current staff member, and a current alumni that they reach out to. I think one of you at this dais is already going to get reached out to, I believe, Trustee Sidhu might have some people that are reaching him. And then lastly, we got word, I always like to add a little bit of data if I can. Parsec is an analytics tool we're using to track information that we have in district on our student achievement data. And we just got word that when they were doing some dashboard released data statewide, that River Bluff Elementary is #1 across the state for the English language arts growth of the subgroup of African American students out of 1,292 schools. And they're ranked number 3 in math growth for elementary schools across the entire state of California. So our teachers and our schools are doing great things. I want you to know that. That's all.
Thank you. Trustee Kirfan?
Thank you, President Singh. I just want to, again, wish Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim families and commend the district for making our school sites accessible to our Muslim students who are fasting during Ramadan. And then again, for anyone who is looking to for information on that program that Superintendent Davis mentioned about the child nutrition services. If a student wants a take-home meal, there's a graphic we posted on all our social media for Central Unified. Please go click the link there if you need those meal accommodations. Also, shout out to our Central East basketball team that are undefeated in the playoffs right now. I got to visit their game last week. I think that's all I have so far for communications. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Our students, speaking of what you just posted, our basketball team plays Friday night, 8 o'clock, Selland Arena. Yes.
Thank you. Next, we turn to our consent agenda. And before we pass our consent agenda, we take comments from the public first.
Yeah.
Any comments from the public on items not on the agenda?
Thank you, President Singh. I have one comment from Laura Bolton. And Ms. Bolton, you'll have 3 minutes, but the timer will be on the screen.
Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to make a quick correction. I pride myself on my math skills, and I made an error. So I shared with you that the change in premiums would be that we would be paying $622 with the proposed change in our bargaining right now. That was inaccurate. The proposed change would increase our premiums from $221.18 to $810.78. So that is definitely not an affordable health insurance premium. And so I would urge the district to reconsider that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We move to our, are there any other comments from the public? Or
None other, President Singh.
Any that we've phoned in? Then we move to back to our agenda, to our consent agenda. And before I take a motion, I just want to highlight we have a resolution to declare March 2025 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. We have a resolution to declare March 2025 as Women's History Month, as well as a resolution to declare March 2nd, 2025 as Read Across America Week. And do I have a motion on this, on the consent agenda?
Motion.
We have a motion by Trustee Sidhu.
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Sellers. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We move on to our action items. Our first action items are student discipline cases.
President Singh, and I would just request if we can vote on each one of them separately.
No problem. So our first item would be case number 2425008. Do I have a motion or amendment to this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the district's recommendations.
We have a motion to approve case number 2425008 by Trustee Sellers.
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Chavez. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Those abstaining, motion carries 6-1.
I'll move to approve the recommendation for case number 24-25-011.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo on case 2425-001. We have a second by Trustee Kerfon. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We next move on to approve comprehensive school safety plans. Supervisor Smith.
All right. Good evening, President Singh, members of the board, and Superintendent Davis. At the previous board meeting, we brought forward the school site comprehensive safety plans and emergency procedures documents for information as part of our annual review. Tonight, we are bringing them back for action. We are recommending approval of these documents to ensure compliance with the March 1st deadline. I am happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Sellers.
All right. Thank you. At the last meeting, I asked for some supporting documentation. Is that the attachment that's in here now?
Yes.
Okay. When I looked that over, it looks like that is all certificated staff. Is there anything for classified or MSC employees?
It should be all the school staff. If that is noticed, then there's additional sign-ins we could ask for, but the review should be for all school staff.
Okay. And then do we have any documentation or anything to provide a little bit more detail as to, when I look at that, I see it as it's a roster. This person was there on this day.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really get into what was taught, who taught it, what standards we're teaching to, and does that individual have a firm understanding of what the responsibilities are?
Yeah, so the review typically, and you've seen the plans, so the review typically is going over what the steps we're going to follow, what teams, if there is an emergency procedures. And then keep in mind too, this is a one-time review where they're doing it, but it's not the last time they're talking about it. That is brought back in January. There's additional conversations. If there's ever any questions as far as, hey, that wasn't clear, what more do we need to talk about? That is ongoing conversation that can be happening. Because understandably, some of these things we don't experience all the time. We want to make sure that we know what we're going to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of my concern, that if we're leaving it up to each individual school site to develop whatever criteria is necessary to be taught, there's inconsistencies from one school site to another.
Yeah.
And where you have a very good experience and knowledge of something, somebody may not.
Yeah.
So some this kind of builds into some of my concerns. I've expressed this before, that I think these plans are very generic, and there's a lot of room for or opportunity for improvement. For example, we have 2 campuses that have aquatics, and looking through their site plans, I don't see anything listed as to what to do in the event of an emergency related to that. It's just something, suggestion to grow. I think it'd be a good opportunity for the board subcommittee to kind of delve into that and make some recommendations. There's always room to do better. Some of the other things that, looking over the current plans here though, it appears that at least one of the campuses plan is missing the signatures on it.
Okay.
I would assume that's a clerical oversight, but as I look a little bit more in depth into it, I've noticed that some of the, as you go through each category, we list specific employees and what their responsibilities and roles are going to be in the event of these specific types of emergencies. Notice that some of the people who are listed are no longer at that campus or even employed with the district. Those are just the ones that I know. So that's causing me a little bit of concern that this, essentially, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, this is now a legal document, right? That once we sign, everyone signed it, adopts it.
That's part of the process that we're going through now, is kind of approving it for this year. Yes.
Okay. So these are my concerns then, that with each plan, we haven't really demonstrated that what lessons have been taught, what standards we're teaching to. I've seen some people listed in these roles that are no longer with the campus or the district, and some of them are missing signatures. It appears that they're incomplete. So I don't feel comfortable approving this tonight.
Can I answer some of that?
Sure.
So I know Cassie has been emailing with principals lately to
Yeah.
make sure all of that is submitted by March 1st. So that information that you're missing, we are after as well, because we need to meet the March 1st deadline. However, we are noting your concern.
Okay.
And there is some practice that we're looking into implementing to ensure we refine some of the processes.
So if this is due March 1st, why is it being brought to us in the 11th hour again?
So it's not 11th hour, they were presented last year.
This is typically, and I know I've been here since last year. I know
Yeah.
this has typically been the time that these have been brought to board because it does take time at the school site to be able to share the plan, meet with the school site council, review it, update it, bring it to us, get it finalized for you to be able to review. And this has kind of been the timeline that we have followed. I just want to add a little bit too, because I know there was concerns about a specific plan. I would love to know that information after, because that is something that I help the sites look through to make sure that information is updated and the signatures are all received. So that is concerning to me as well. And it's very important that those are reviewed and updated annually.
That's all of my comments at the moment.
Trustee Creel?
So I have some follow-up questions. So I'm a little confused as to, Trustee Sellers, what you're referring to as far as like the curriculum or lessons being taught. What are you referring to?
Well, when we have individuals listed as a search and rescue team or a fire suppression hazmat team, what lessons are they being taught?
Okay.
What is the expectations?
How is that being reviewed?
Yeah.
And is every site doing that consistently?
And it's not just those two. There's others that, what do these, we're asking our staff to perform some sort of responsibility, but I don't know if there's really clear definition of what that is. And without that, how can I say I've appropriately trained you? You know, if, for example, if fire suppression is, I expect you to use a fire extinguisher to put out the trash can that's on fire. You know, that's fine, but I would expect to see some sort of across the board standard that this is what we expect across the district. You have demonstrated proficiency in utilizing a fire extinguisher, and you clearly understand what your role and responsibility is going to be.
So I know for some of these, because if you look at, and it's been a while since I've read every word of these plans, they are standard because I believe this is a template consistent with the requirements.
Yes, and it's linked into recommendations through California, through emergency management, yes.
Right, and there are a ton of different legislative bills, and then there were updates in the last 2 years, and I think even last year's.
There's been updates every year, yes, and that's what kind of plays into these plans becoming very long, is that as we live, we know there's new things that we're updating and being prepared for.
All to say that in addition to what the plans say, my understanding, and I do know personally because we all get an email with the mandatory trainings that we're all supposed to be completing on this board that all of our staff also have to complete. And I don't know about the fire suppression because I don't remember. I don't think that's one that is included for us as a board. Okay, so that's why I'm saying, like, I know that there's going to be... So to answer your question, in addition to these plans, there are specific trainings, whether we're confirming if someone fully understands how to use a fire extinguisher, because I don't, but it's not my job to, is a different story. But these plans are comprehensive in compliance with our legal requirements. There's also training modules that are provided, and I'm pretty certain that we also provide any employee that says, I need more training, I need more information, they can access additional modules. And I'm just looking at like the child abuse reporting procedures. That's a mandatory 1 to 2 hour training that all of us on this board are supposed to complete and have access and have received notifications about. Some of the other things about like discrimination and harassment. So I think I just want to make sure that you know, and perhaps they confirm that there are additional trainings in addition to anything that's being done in person. And if employees and anyone who is watching or hears our meeting, if you feel like you need more training, please make sure that you talk to your supervisor, because we have various platforms and our staff will be prepared to make sure that you understand what your responsibilities are in these roles. And so my only other recommendation would be consistent with what Trustee Sellers says, that we take a closer look for some of the identification of those employees, and if that's changed, that we're more attuned and vigilant about replacing those names so that it is accurate and current.
Absolutely.
Trustee Sellers?
I just want to add on that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I've been approached by employees that have expressed they have not received adequate training. And when asked, there's nothing, or it's, hey, I don't really know.
So I would suggest for any employee that is claiming that, the best approach is, once you've contacted your supervisor, follow up with an email. And now you have a record. And now when there are any issues, there's documentation, you're asking for training, and we're not giving it to you. But I know I see a lot of heads nodding. I think we have additional trainings we can provide. So if employees, you're listening, you want additional trainings, please make sure you contact your supervisor. And if they're saying no, make sure that then they're contacting the district office so that we provide them the training they need.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the comprehensive school safety plans as presented.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Kirk. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstain. Item carries 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move to item number 3, approve Student and Family Services Site Coordinator job description. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Lopez.
Hello again. So today I am reviewing the job description, and we are recommending that you approve the job description. But I know that there was an ask for information in some of our prior meetings. So I wanted you to be aware a little bit of the historical background. So I'm not going to go into detail because I know you've had this information. However, we did have a planning grant for 2 years in our system. And through that planning grant, we were able to secure a team of individuals that made some decisions on behalf of our district to create a plan. This plan is supposed to be in compliance with the California Community Schools framework, as well as the needs that were assessed at our school sites that were to be the 6 community schools. In year 1, there was a price group that was suggested from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools to ensure that we complied with the application process. There was collaboration with area supervisors and educational services department. During year 2, our director, Erin English, was hired, and she continued that work that started in year 1, along with area administrators. Atosa was hired later in that year, towards the second semester, to help with the input sessions at Teague Elementary School. And there was input provided from a team that was created. Corinne Campos was also part of this second semester hire to ensure that we were in compliance with the application and that we were able to obtain the grant. The application was submitted by semester 2, 23-24 academic year. We were able to be granted that $8,312,500, and Dr. Lopez, myself, presented this to the board in June 11th, the receipt of the grant and the fact that we would be receiving the GAN letter soon. Upon that letter, we awaited for the funds to be provided to our district, but during that process, we hired a supervisor of community schools, and we were able to start some of the foundational work and laying the groundwork for the community schools to get started in spending those funds in accordance to the proposal submitted to the state, as well as the needs assessments that were done in those listening sessions at the school sites. So having said that, we did start a guiding coalition during that time. And this was formed, which included the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, the area administrators, Director of DEI, consultant, that was part, I believe that was Corinne Campos now, CUDA President Laura Bolton, teacher on special assignment through the planning grant, and the principals who opened the listening sessions at each of the school sites. Family outreach liaisons and faculty were also part of this collaboration. Each school had multiple listening sessions, and we paid for extra funding to ensure that our teachers attended. So they were paid extra paid contracts if they wanted to attend during those hours. We wanted teacher input. We wanted to ensure we heard not just our families, our classified staff, but to ensure that our teachers had input during this process. There was a survey that was created. We started with Teague Elementary School because they were the site that had already initiated the work with the TOSA. They provided us a survey that they had created in collaboration with the teachers and the team. That survey was distributed to a total, to the teachers within those school sites. A total of 63 teachers submitted responses from that survey, expressing the needs at the site, but also identifying the great work that is happening already and the assets that each school possesses. Through this grant, we were able to, as you can see, those are the school sites that participated and the percentage of staff for each of the school sites that participated. They selected their school site. Again, this is the staff and teacher input sessions. Out of the 63, 95% of the responses were teachers. So from the 67 responses, 94% of the responses coming from certificated teachers and only 6% from classified staff. Every question included a mandatory narrative, so they can't just click a response. You have to explain to us in narrative format what you want or what you see as a need at the school site or a gap. But you also have to express the areas of strength in a narrative format. There was thematic coding done to identify the gaps and the needs, including staffing. So if they mentioned staffing, it was identified with thematic coding. To ensure that this information that was provided to me matched, I myself went through every single response that was submitted through that survey, and I identified whether they identified an administrator that they wanted, an additional administrator, a community school person, if they wanted some people mentioned noontime assistance as a need. Some of them did mention intervention teachers. So I myself highlighted just to count the number of people that were mentioned in that survey. In this survey, non-teaching positions, meaning classified staff, noontime assistants, an intervention specialist, were mentioned 95% of the times. So that is the need that was identified by just the survey itself. From the input sessions, we received something similar. They identified classified positions or individuals that can provide services to meet, they call them out-of-school factors. I think we're all passionate about understanding the gap, right? That persistent gap in academics that persist. And that is not solely rigor in the classroom, which is a big factor. Culturally relevant information is very important, which is why it's part of one of the pillars, but also access to out-of-school factors. And what those are is food insecurity, housing. We know health, right? So that was identified and clear in the surveys and in the input sessions. The grant had to meet the framework guidelines, which was also attached to this presentation in blue. On top of that, we had to take all of that information into account, identify the position that would best meet those gaps that were identified, and that is how the position of a coordinator came to be. We need somebody that works with the community. We need somebody that understands how to pull in resources from the community to meet the out-of-school factors, because 95% of the responses were around health, food, parent classes, you name it. So it was a variety of needs that we needed somebody that could advocate for those needs to bring back to the sites. In addition, it was identified that these needs don't stop during the summer. These needs don't stop during wintertime. The needs do not stop during springtime. And they don't stop at 3:45. So we had to take into account what is a position in our district that can meet those various needs no matter the time, because we know those are happening as we sleep at night for some of our families. We also had to take into account sustainability and the need for the position. Funding is braided. There is no way we can meet the needs of a school and call it a community school and keep it that way with a position. We know that. So it's the community organizations that are linked to the school that are hopefully going to remain linked to that school after the position goes away with the grant funding. However, we wanted to sustain that position. If we're investing in training a person, like how can we keep that individual continuing to provide services? And we thought, well, there's a pillar, ELO, right? Expanded Learning Opportunities is the current pillar of the community school framework. So as you can see in that, the specific job description that has been attached, we included language on expanded learning opportunities to ensure that when the funding goes away, then expanded learning opportunities can kick in, and that matches the prior supervisors that we had through Campus Connect to provide services as a lead teacher in our system. So now that person that has been trained, that knows how to make connections with the community, can remain and continue providing services to our families through the expanded learning program. The coordinator in this scenario is a 12-month position. So we had to look at all of those things. What current position is able to meet those kinds of time frames? It's a flexible position that can go outside of the regular academic day. And also, we are looking for an individual that understands how to bring in services into our school, that has experience working with community-based organizations. So that is how the position came to be. Having said that, I know that it was requested to kind of see this information regarding to funding. The reason why you see a difference in the coordinator pay is because we have to evaluate the 5-year cost, because you don't know who you're going to be hiring. You may be hiring somebody with experience. So that is how we allocate this. For the teacher position, and I know Amir is on Zoom, maybe he can kick in and help me out with this one. I had to collaborate with his department because what they do is they look at the majority of our current teacher population, and we have to take the average between that, which is 83% at the higher end of the pay right now. 83% of our staff is at that pay. So we have to consider if one of them gets higher, what would the pay be? So we do an average of that, and that's what you see when I get into the teacher pay. If we were to fund a teaching position, which is one of the asks that was mentioned to bring back information, that is the cost, and that is not providing any funding to the school sites. And we would still be in the negative, so we would have to figure out then how do we cover that cost. The classified position that is being suggested would provide us with some funding, but I want us to remember what I said about braided funding. The reason why we are including Expanded Learning Opportunities program is because some of the committee work, I don't want us to forget that there's a committee at every school, and every committee will have teachers, will have classified staff, will have administration, will have a team of people, parents, and community-based. We are asking for a community-based organization to sit in that committee so they can give input as to what programs they want to see at the school site to better serve the needs that were identified. Now, whatever they decide, we're not going to limit it to that amount. We have expanded learning opportunities. So if they decide an after-school program on literacy, then our ELO program will kick in to provide services to that school to meet that gap. If they feel it's a summer literacy program, then we can make that happen. And now this person that is in that position can manage that program and hire for teaching fellows, paraprofessionals, whatever's needed to make the program happen. We don't want limits. So that's what we're trying to do with the job description. And that's why you see a lot of ELO mentioned in the job description. Having said that, the job description attached aligns with the California Community Schools Partnership Program grant proposal that was provided and accepted by the state. I would like to ask that we evaluate that position, and that I highly suggest that we recommend for us to adopt it. I do, however, want to introduce you to someone. Her name is Cristina Rodriguez, and she's our supervisor of community schools and expanded learning programs, and she's been doing a lot of work, and I wanted her to speak a little bit about the work she's doing. So if you can come up. And she will be joined by Nora Ceballos. Come on, Nora. And she is our current parent and family engagement coordinator, which was one of the initial coordinators we hired as a district, and she can tell you a little bit about her work and what she does in our community.
press the button.
It's my first experience, so please bear with me. Good evening, President Singh, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Katie Davis. I am Christina Rodriguez, and I am the Supervisor of Community Schools and also our expanded learning programs for our district. I'm here tonight to introduce myself and also to share the progress so far relating to community schools in our district. I will also be expressing the need to move forward with the hiring of our Student and Family Services Site Coordinators. It's important to note that funding for this grant was recently received by Fresno County Superintendent of Schools at the end of January. Although we only recently received the funds, there have been preparations that needed to be done to ensure implementation. Much of the work thus far has been district-level implementation of the grant. This year, we have offered a variety of community school events, offering food distribution, clothing, and other needs for our community. One example of this was our Lights On event that we did in collaboration with our expanded learning program, which I also oversee. We had over 1,200 attendees at this event, and we had 19 community-based organizations. This is the first time that we've ever had community-based organizations at this event. Some of those organizations were organizations like PG&E, which was there to provide resources to support with bills, energy management, and much more. Another organization was the Fresno Interdenominational Refugee Ministries, which they work really closely with our refugee community to provide support in areas like wellness, community building, literacy, and learning. We also hosted a food distribution at this event, and we gave over 2,300 fresh produce items. And we give back as well. So we collected over 1,000 brand new socks for Randy's Closet, which is one of our community-based organizations that provides clothing to all of our students in Central Unified. Another event was our recent LCAP meetings. I collaborated with Dr. Lopez and also with our state and federal department. We did a grocery giveaway in collaboration with the Teague Pantry and also with Feeding Fresno. We also had a couple different community-based organizations there as well to provide support and information for our families. One of those organizations was the Highway City Community Development, and they were there promoting community input for the Safe Streets project. Another one was Centro La Familia, which provides services for immigration, victim services, health and wellness, and others. As you heard earlier, I also collaborate with our director of the Foundation for Central Unified Schools, Serena Dohe, and I am really excited to just continue to expand on that collaboration that we have. I've met with school site administrators to provide professional development around community schools, and I also created some guiding documents for them. I myself have attended professional development sessions hosted by the Central Valley Regional Technical Assistance and Coaching Department, and this has really helped with the preparation and resource collection for the professional development that I will be providing for the coordinators once they are hired. I've also done a few community school site visits where I engaged in learning walks at 3 different school districts. During these learning walks, I really was looking at their structure and procedures for their site committees. I was looking at the role of the coordinators, how they really integrate with the school. The most recent learning walk that I did was with Corinne Campos and also with Dr. Lopez, and we were looking at the best practices for the district-wide advisory committee. The idea is that we gather the best practices to create the best model for our district. I work closely with our family outreach liaisons. I meet with them monthly, and I provide professional development. During these meetings, I also implemented where I actually schedule community-based organizations to come in to every meeting, provide information to our liaisons, so that not only are they getting the information that they need to provide to our families, but they also have a direct contact person. They have someone that they know that they can go to when they need their services. And this has created partnerships at all sites and not just our community school sites. I also provide them with support and guidance around parent engagement, event creation, and data collection, as this is part of our community schools data goal. I also have supported in the start of the Early Matters Fresno Network Improvement Community. This is in collaboration with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, Teague's TOSA, and also their school team. This is a cohort of 21 students at Teague that receive targeted supports and monitoring from our NIC. The NIC ensures that we create a support system for the family as a whole, which targets out-of-school factors that are barriers to achieving grade level early literacy, and addresses chronic absenteeism. Once this is fully implemented and data is gathered, this framework will really help guide the work at the additional community schools. I have also overseen the work by Artosa at Teague in collaboration with site leadership. I helped coordinate a middle school leadership academy in collaboration with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools and other surrounding districts that was designed to address leadership skills and reading improvement for our unduplicated student population. Starting in July, when I was hired, in July 2024, I have collaborated with Akuda and Dr. Lopez around language that aligns to the work to be done by the California Community Schools Partnership program committees, and also our district around the running of the grant that has taken that where we've met and we've just really have come up with some good agreements in that collaboration. Lastly, one of the implementations that I'm most proud of is our intercession camps. So we started with winter, and we're not stopping there. We're continuing with spring and hopefully into summer. But myself, along with April Lee, our ELOP manager, and guidance from Dr. Lopez, we have implemented and provided these to our students. In these camps, students get to engage in various real-world experiences and enrichment activities. They get to choose between either an on-site camp or an off-site camp. This model has really allowed us to build partnerships with local community-based organizations and vendors, and also aligns with the expanded learning pillar of community schools. As you can see, many of these supports I've mentioned have been at little to no cost to the district. We have partnered with community-based organizations to bring those services to our families. The site coordinators will be able to do the same thing for our sites and provide that level of support year-round, whether it's during the regular school day or outside of the regular school day, during in-session periods or out-of-session periods, intersessions, what we call them. I also know that there is an area of discussion. I also know that an area of discussion has been around sustainability. And sustainability really is in the relationships that we build with those CBOs, that we continue to grow and foster those relationships to support the needs of our community in years to come. I will now introduce Nora Ceballos, our Parent Engagement Coordinator, which is a comparable role to the position that we are seeking approval from tonight. She will explain the scope of her work. Thank you.
Good evening, President Singh, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Davis. My name is Nora Ceballos, for the ones of you that don't know me yet, and I have the privilege of serving as a parent involvement coordinator for our district, and I've been the first one in Fresno County Superintendent Schools, and that happened to be me in Central Unified School District. I do this with a lot of passion and for the work that I've been committed since 2008. My mission has been to ensure that every family, regardless of language, background, or circumstances, has access to the resources and support they need. I work hard to foster strong partnerships with community-based organizations to connect families with essential services and subsidized resources. I collaborate with the school sites and their family outreach liaisons to provide access to whatever resources is needed. At the heart of my work is a commitment to meeting families where they are and where they need us the most. Whether that means early mornings, evenings, or weekends. The challenges of our families face do not pause when the school day ends, and neither does our dedication to supporting them. Through collaboration and outreach, we're making a meaningful impact in the lives of our students and their families. Here are just a few initiatives that are transforming our community, and this is the latest from this school year, not this school year, this year, from January till now. Know Your Rights. This was based on the family's needs. You know what is going with immigration right now. So listening to their needs, we decided to partner with Centro La Familia, the Mexican Consulate, and other agencies to be able to empower the families with legal knowledge and resources to navigate immigration concerns. Randy's Closets, a streamlined system ensuring students have access to clean, appropriate clothing when they need the most. Food distribution in collaboration with Despensa de Campesinex we provided food security, currently assisting 35 families that they feared going to get food because of their immigration status. So actually, the family outreach liaisons have been helping me to deliver that food. We also organize the food distributing through our own food pantry, like you heard from Serena. The family outreach liaisons have been helping to make the appointments and distribute the food to those families. LCAP in community schools, expanding access through transportation, food distribution, and a food truck offering vegetarian options to promote inclusivity. Neighborhood Industries Partnership, providing emergency assistance, including $500 vouchers for families that are displaced due to fires, and $100 vouchers for families in need. Direct assistance to unhoused students and families, which has resulted in personal invitations to graduations, ceremonies, and family achievement celebrations, life-changing success stories, students overcoming homelessness, leaving gangs, and graduating to become lawyers, doctors, and scientists. I also been helping families and students to go to the Ivy League schools to graduate and are being very successful. The role of the Student Family and Services Site Coordinator, to continue making a meaningful impact, we must increase staffing and resources to expand engagement and outreach, strengthen partnerships with community and organizations to enhance support services, invest in professional development to meet evolving needs of families, implement data-driven strategies to assess needs and track progress effectively. To ensure the long-term sustainability of these efforts, we must strengthen our collaboration with community-based organizations and cultivate strong, lasting partnerships with our community. Families need heart-driven individuals who don't mind helping past working hours, early mornings, evenings, weekends, and during school breaks. Their struggles don't stop there, and neither should our community end. My position as a management classified, it gives me the flexibility in the sense that I am able to provide for their needs regardless of the time of the year or the time of the day that is needed. Together, we're not just providing support, we're empowering families and transforming lives. Thank you for your leadership, vision, and dedication to the families of Central Unified. I look forward to continue this important work alongside you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. So we are recommending at this point for us to approve the job description. I'm happy to answer any questions.
We'll take comments from the public before we have our conversation. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, President Singh. Our comment is from Laura Bolton. Ms. Bolton, you'll have 3 minutes.
Working. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I do want to respond a little bit to what was in the presentation. The guiding coalition that's described on the slide mentions a bunch of people, including myself. I can say for certain that I have never sat down as a team with the group of people listed there and discuss this position or anything else having to do with community schools. That's not to say that I have not been consulted with, that I have not talked, that I've not had small group meetings, but the guiding coalition, this team, does not exist. It has not met, at least not with me. So this is disingenuous. I understand the need for a 12-month position. We have 12-month classified people. It already exists, that position. We need to understand that classified management employees are not protected by a collective bargaining agreement. They are at-will employees. They will be yes people. They will not feel comfortable standing up for what the community wants if it isn't what the DO wants. The site coordinator should feel comfortable speaking up and advocating for students, families, and staff. And I know that they would feel this way because our existing MSC, classified management personnel, don't feel comfortable speaking up. They come to CUDA. They come to CSEA. They ask us to speak up for them because they are afraid to speak up. That's the person that we want to put in this position.
They will not be able to be independent thinkers and advocate for the community the way they should. Now, we can have classified personnel. That's what I thought the job was when I was shown the graph with all of the information in the budget. It said classified. It never said classified management. The dollar amount that was listed there looked like a high classified salary. I expected that. I thought it was the year 5 high-end salary. I asked no questions because it made sense, and I gave my thumbs up. And to think to imply that our classified folks couldn't do this job without having management as a title is disrespectful. Betty, who is one of the people on the guiding coalition, is amazing. We need more Bettys. She's classified. She is not classified management. We can find more Bettys. We can. Thank you.
President Singh, we have no other comments cards at this time.
Do we have any on the phone?
Board President, there are no callers at this time.
So now open up to conversation. I saw Trustee Chavez's hand.
Okay, so I've studied this quite closely for a little while, and I feel like the presentation tonight was exactly the same presentation that we had a few weeks ago, concerning. Primarily because I did ask some very pointed questions about the budget. Thank you, Superintendent Davis, for getting me those answers. But where I get concerned, okay, so let me just, first of all, congratulate the district for getting a grant like this. I know it's a huge accomplishment. I want to congratulate the people who have brought it this far. So at no means am I trying to be disrespectful to the work that's been done, because I am coming in at the 11th hour. So obviously I'm coming in with a different perspective. But when I look at a budget and I see a line item for $608,000 per year for things like a $90,000 consultant in 1 year, that's concerning to me. And then we have $390,000 for personnel. The mismatch, I just can't justify it. I asked questions about why are we using $83,000 per site for training? I mean, some of these numbers were just so large. I still don't feel satisfied with those answers. And so when we're talking about sustainability and I'm seeing diagrams of us being in a deficit, that we can't afford certain positions and we can't do certain things, I still am not clear why the budget is the way that it is. And so to hear that we don't have funding to do certain things is concerning to me. I do really appreciate the fact that I do think we could have very skilled people in a classified position. I read the grant closely. Nowhere did I see classified manager. I did see classified coordinator. That's the line item. So I've been told, and I feel like it's a circular argument. I keep getting directed back like, oh, we have a classified manager is the only job title that's comparable in Central. I keep getting told that, and even giving links to our HR. That's our own internal interpretation. That's not coming from the funder. So that was my question at the previous board meeting. Is this coming from the funder that we have to do that? And I was told, yes, this is what we have in the grant. No, it says 6 classified coordinators. We're interpreting that to say classified management. I can tell you as a person, I've been a classified manager. I did it. I built a program at Madera County Office of Ed. It's a hard job, and you work a lot of hours. And it's exactly like what they said. You are an at-will employee, and you could be fired at the drop of a hat. And it's a tough job. So I want to be really careful about how we handle this position, because this position is vital for those schools and for that community. And the idea that we would hire somebody, number one, that we would be underpaying them potentially. Number two, that there could be potential for high turnover in that role concerns me. And number three, if we're looking at sustainability at the end of this 5 years, we need to really look at long-term, how are we going to support this? So one of the things that I keep thinking about is I've heard suggestions of master's level social workers. I've heard it multiple times. In bargaining, we're talking about LCAP, teachers are requesting social workers. We're talking about blending and braiding of funding. This is kind of the opportunity. If you have funds available to start to seed something and then potentially keep it sustainable by blending and braiding funding and looking at LCAP 5 years from now, building up to plans, I think there's just some bigger questions about what are we thinking about strategically. I understand the immediacy that we need to get started, but I want to be thoughtful about how we move forward because these staff roles are so critical. I really just feel like there just needs to be a closer look. That's all.
Trustee Sidhu? Oh, sorry, did you want to share some information? Assistant
Yes.
Superintendent Lopez?
Thank you for your concerns. I understand where you're coming from. The line items that you're mentioning were, and I think you've already examined the grant, it came from the grant, but know that in April we have to submit a report. So that is when we can suggest changes. And that is something that I've already talked to my supervisor and to ensure that it aligns. We're even reducing her cost. And that is why she's able to do a lot of this expanded learning work because we are reducing her cost to put it back at the site. So we are trying to make some changes. I did contact CDE just to verify. They are allowing 10% change within lines. It's not the 5 that was mentioned, so I verified that. So know that's a response for that. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Trustee Carrillo and then Trustee Sidhu.
Thank you, President Singh. I'm really frustrated with us as a board because this is now the second time, maybe even the fourth, thank you, the fourth time we have this item. We're here to talk about these job descriptions, and for our existing board members, not our new ones, because you're just joining us, this is not a new conversation. This is a grant that was presented to us 3 years ago. We have teachers. I know that at some point we approved Ms. Judy Martinez has some role. I don't know what role, and I don't remember, and I can't pull it off the top of my... she's a TOSA. So it's frustrating that we keep coming back and some of the comments that are being said, that when we're talking about classified management, that we're saying that our classified who are bargaining unit members are less than. That is not what is being said. The reason for the classified management is because the overtime rules that fall under FLSA and are part of the collective bargaining agreement don't apply to management. Because yes, we work people to their bone. That's exactly what we're saying. That's exactly what we heard from both of our other management employees that are speaking up and sharing. And if we have employees who are concerned with whether they can speak up, whether they are being listened to, whether their recommendations, that is not, in my personal opinion, unions will disagree, that's not a reason to have these employees be part of a union. That's a bigger institutional issue with our management. And that's something that we as a board should have bigger conversations about, and that our management needs to be aware of. And so it's just really frustrating that we're trying to move forward. This grant was written, it was written the way that it was, and that there's, in my perspective, in my view, a misrepresentation as to the reason for these management classified employees is so that there is this flexibility and so that we can save money in the overtime. That's ultimately what it is. And if we don't want that, then now we're dictating what those positions should be and what this grant should be. And quite frankly, if that's what we're going to be doing as a board, why are we hiring employees to write these grants? And how are we going to hold them responsible when they're not doing their job? Because we're now dictating what those positions should be, and we're going to have a huge financial implication, which impacts us when we are in negotiations. We're currently in negotiations with CUDA. We heard from CSEA. What we know consistently, which is not unique to our district, is that every year we're being asked to increase salaries. That means more money, and the super majority of our budget, I think the last time was 86%, 87%, goes to salaries. Our hands are tied. And quite frankly, we don't even know what our federal government is going to be doing and how many of these grants we're still going to be able to sustain moving forward, which is very concerning. So I really hope that you all have made a decision and that we can move forward. And again, I'm talking to my colleagues, that we can make a decision today on these positions, because I don't want to waste another meeting and, quite frankly, have our administration waste more time, and our administration, our staff members from upper management to down the chain, to present the same information again. There's clearly, we're either not articulating our questions correctly, or there's nothing more for them to provide other than, if you don't want this position to be a management coordinator, then you're going to be dictating, and we're going to risk losing the grant money and however much a larger financial impact that's going to have on our budget. So with that, I know that there's still other comments. Otherwise, I'm ready to make a motion to approve this. And if we can't get this done, then I think we need to rethink this whole community schools altogether, because it's going to really prevent us as a district to be able to do anything if we're constantly going to be questioning everything and have 4 meetings on the same subject and not move anywhere. That's all.
Trustee Sidhu?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. Part of our public comments, they said, Ms. Laura Bolton said that there was no input from the guiding coalition. So I just want to ask you, was there input from the guiding coalition? What do you define as the guiding coalition? And then was there a meeting with everybody sitting down?
So this feedback was provided by Corinne, as well as written information that was taken from notes from those sessions. And we did have people present and sign in to those sessions. So I can tell you that we have teacher representation. But I know that Tammy is Dr. Boatwright is ready to also explain what she was here during that process as well.
Yes, so the very first year when the initial planning grant was being put together, so that's, I think we're year 3 now, so that's quite a while ago. There was a group of staff that came together. A director that used to be here with us that's now at county, Jason Horstman, was the one that started from Ed Services with this. We had, a number of people present. There were staff from Teague present, classified and teachers. The principal was present from Teague Elementary. We worked with the Aaron Price, which was a grant writer who worked with that team to put together the planning grant. So that was year 1. So we put that together, submitted, we were approved. Then what happened year 2 was that Corinne Campos came on board. We needed someone to help us put that grant together. That's when she started with Aaron English with the listening sessions, which is what Dr. Lopez just referred to. Those were out at the school sites that we were going to apply on behalf of for the implementation grant. So planning took place year 1. Once we received that, that's how we launched Teague Elementary, the community school there, then implementation, and now we are in year 3. Does that answer your question?
I'll come back if I need further clarification. And then how much? My second question is, how much time do we have to spend this grant?
Every year we receive the yearly budget that you see in the spreadsheet, $1,700,000, but it's split into the sites according to what was allocated to each of the school sites. Some receive $300,000 year 1, but then as the year progresses, they only get $225,000. So it just depends. But every year we're allocated the allotment for the year.
Are we losing money if we delay anything? How does that work? If you can explain that.
I can't answer that question because in April I have to submit the report. Okay. At the end of the day, they would determine that, I think, based on compliance to the grant. Like, I know we are explaining our circumstances, and I know we're not alone. Like, we've been in communication with other districts too. So it just, I don't know. I need to submit a report in April and see where that goes.
My other question is, if we don't spend, let's say hypothetically, we're not spending anything this year, does it get added on to next year, or is it just like year by year basis?
So the funds do remain for next year that I'm aware of. But again, I would have to wait until April, submit the information. I know that we're in constant communication with Fresno County RTAC, which is our team. And they are suggesting that we can make an amendment possibly, but that would have to go to state board. So there's processes that we got to follow, and I would have to check on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Superintendent Davis wanted to add to that.
I think I can add a few points of observation through this whole process, and you've heard it mentioned numerous times. There's a lot of people involved. There's not one group. As is defined in the grant, there's a guiding coalition. When we all think of a guiding coalition, we think of a group that's meeting regularly and consistently, and that's what we expect moving forward. Throughout the course of this, as was mentioned, there's been small groups, there's been input sessions, there's not been one large, she listed it, but I think it's very clear to note, as was described by both of them, there's been multiple people inside and out of it. So I think small clusters working towards the project with changes in staff along the way. You have a list of who they are. Moving forward, the coalition for each of those campuses is intended to be a very specific group of people that will shepherd the interests of each of those schools. It's a 5-year grant. We are heading into the spring of the first year of that grant. Typically with grants, we have 1, possibly 18 months to expend all funds at the end of that 5 years. So we're finishing a first year. It will allow us to carry over, but it doesn't allow us just to pick when our start date is. There is an end date to the grant funds.
Now, regarding, if I can answer the braided conversation, so what I mean with sustainability through braided funding is the position that can help us continue leading ELO programs. So we can't pay for a social worker, we can't, so just to answer that. But a position that can be in a place of a lead in the future, we can. And that is similar to this role.
Trustee Kirfan?
Thank you, President Singh. Superintendent Davis answered my first question, which was about the why we're implementing this now and not at a later time. My next question, Dr. Lopez, would be: did the district get input from the steering coalition on the job description for this?
So we ask for feedback as to what the need is, and that is the survey that was created intended to answer some of those questions, like what is the need at the site? The needs at the sites and the gap analysis that identify the position. That's what I understood from meeting with Corinne, reading the paperwork, reading the sign-in sheets, you name it. It was around what is the need and what are the gaps, what are we currently doing that's strong, and that is how the positions came about. So they started saying we have a need for these resources.
And so thank you for seeking that input, but it sounds like the answer is no input on this job description.
We did not say what position would you like hired.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And then when did the guiding coalition as a group meet? Do we know when that happened?
So as mentioned, it was separate individuals, and I think giving feedback or groups of people. So under my meetings with Corinne, she mentioned teachers that met.
Right.
Then those teachers were given extra pay contracts to attend the listening sessions at the school sites, because that is when the meetings were taking place for feedback.
I understand, Dr. Lopez, but I'm not asking about the listening sessions, just whether this guiding coalition met as a group at one point. It sounds like they haven't.
So we heard earlier from Superintendent Davis that what's the name? Whatever coalition? The guiding coalition is not one group of people. It's not a task force that consists of 15 people and they meet on a regular basis. They're literally talking about a guiding coalition to consist of all these different folks that are providing feedback. So your question is no, because there is no such group that is defined and is meeting on a regular basis, like perhaps you're thinking, and I think were the questions earlier as well.
In that case, why don't we have a specific task force of people in our district that care about community schools and can help us guide this program?
I am so glad you're asking that question. So that is the goal. So the goal is that we have a committee at each one of the school sites with these individuals to make decisions on the funding, and a district committee. So we've attended a few districts, as our supervisor of community schools mentioned, just to grasp at ideas. I've been meeting with Laura and one session with our TOSA, Teague, Judy, to get feedback as to what the committee should be comprised in. I think we landed on a pretty good number of individuals that should be in those committees, and that is what we're leaning towards.
Okay. And why should these positions not be part of a bargaining unit for the sustainability of the program? I'm not sure why we couldn't amend that to include that.
I am going to leave that to you as a board to make that decision. However, the coordinator roles that we have in our district are the ones that I'm presenting to you.
Okay, thank you. So then, if the job description is approved as written, how do we ensure these coordinators, speaking to the concerns we heard from public comment, how do we ensure that these coordinators are able to speak their mind and advocate for programming without fear of retaliation?
So just so you know a little bit about my leadership, I am not one.
I'm not speaking
Yeah.
on you, just in a general, sense.
So I think Trustee Kerfon, specific to that, I think if we believe that is a larger institutional issue and not specific to our specific item in terms of the job description at hand, I think that warrants a larger conversation for us as a board. I don't want to cut off your train of thought if there's an additional question, but I did want to, I kind of want to just share a little bit where I see this conversation going, and I want to kind of tie it in terms of what is specifically the decision that we have to make. That's being presented to us this evening.
Okay. My final concern then is just that we're spending the majority of this grant money on new staff, and I worry about the long-term viability of community schools in Central Unified because I want this to be a success, and I'm worried that since previously stated, correct me if I'm wrong, in a previous meeting, we are not applying for a second round of grant funding. So I'm worried about how we're going to continue to pay these people that we're hiring 5 years from now. I'm worried about that.
So the decision was as a team, and please know that we want to see something that is being effective replicated. So the intention is not to apply for any future grant funding, as we haven't started the work in these community schools. I don't know if a coordinator will be effective if I can't see it in action and see how it works. So in order for me to write another grant and do another proposal, I don't want to say another 6 coordinators when perhaps that's not the route we want to take. So what I want to do is I want to evaluate a program. I want to implement it effectively, which takes 3 to 5 years, and for us to be able to gather data along the way. Any other opportunities that come up, you saw me present the LCSSP other grant. Thank you, Cassie Smith, for submitting that grant. We received $2 million out of that. We are not stopping to reach out for grants because our community deserves those grants, right? Our kids deserve that money. Now, having said that, the work that is being done, as mentioned in the past, the relationships and the collaboration with our CBOs, that is what's bringing in the supports to the school, not a person. So like mentioned, some of our FOLs have already been introduced to CBOs. They're already calling and getting services for our families in need at their sites. Because of this collaboration between our supervisor and our FOLs and Nora Ceballos, we are connecting our CBOs to our sites. So the job of that coordinator is to go broader because now they have individual plans at each one of those schools and they have different needs. So that specific coordinator will be able to match the needs in the needs assessment that was done to whatever CBOs are in the community that need to come and support the school.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation and others that presented on this program. I'm really glad we're developing this program and you're all doing a great job. I am just concerned about whether we are collaborating with our implementation, with our bargaining units, because that too is a pillar of community schools, is the shared decision making. And I want to make sure that they're being included when it comes to implementing community schools.
That is the plan. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you, Trustee Kerfon. So I'm trying to synthesize, obviously, like various information. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you even for the public comments. I think we have a grant before us. We have a reporting date that's soon approaching. At this point, we have not filled certain sorts of positions. I hear loud and clear, and it's concerning to me in terms of we have different understanding of shared decision making, and I think that has to create some sort of alignment. I've heard from Superintendent Davis. I've heard now from Assistant Superintendent Lopez that is the intention for us going forward. I believe you two, so we as a board are going to probably hold that, and that we're saying it to the public. I think my sort of concern again is that we have to have some sorts of implementation. Dr. Lopez shared opportunities for us to revisit, to reclassify, to make certain changes, and I think that will continues to be sort of part of the conversation. I think at some point we have to launch because we have to give a report by April 1st. And I think as we approach the dates, I think I'm getting more and more concerned that the state may have a different opinion if we can't even get off the ground. To Trustee Kerfon's question, which I think is really important in terms of what will be the sustainability. All I know is what's been said publicly. At least Governor Newsom has absolutely made this a public promise, at least during his tenure. We will have to see sort of beyond that. But those are sort of the things that I'm sort of hearing. And so, yes, I think we have talked in small groups. I think we have to come to greater alignment. I think we have had a commitment to make sure we're doing that and making sure that an understanding of a coalition is a shared understanding of a coalition. But I think for right now, I'm like, I kind of want to move forward with the recommendation to at least get us off the ground. Trustee Kerfon?
Thank you, President Singh. If we're going to move forward on this, then my recommendation would be that we approve this with the direction that a formal guiding coalition task force be created that includes, our community schools team, our family liaisons, and the CUDA bargaining unit.
If I can explain a little bit, the framework calls out for a committee, a district committee. So that is what we would like to follow the framework for community schools with a committee, and they are included. They would be included in
and
the
this
process.
committee would involve shared decision making on the implementation.
That is, yeah, it's part of the key foundational items of community schools.
Okay. All right. Well, if we're doing that, then I think I can approve this item.
Okay. Trustee Chavez?
I think that for me, just number one statement, like, I don't like to be pushed into things. I'm coming in late, so I've got to just kind of join in. I understand that, but we should never be in a position where we're 3 years down the line and we're at this position. This isn't good. This is something I'm going to look at long term. So I can't fix it tonight, but I never want to be in this position again. But I will say, if you have the opportunity to do some revision on the budget and possibly move some things around in April, is there the possibility for us to keep this a classified position without it becoming a manager, with the possibility of moving some of the money from the $608,000 line item in the $5,000 object code, the 5,000 object code? So what I'm saying to you is, if we did have to pay some overtime, because obviously I to acknowledge Trustee Carrillo's concerns about overtime, if we did need to go that route, we could have some of that funding available if we were able to loosen some of that to put it into personnel, is what I'm saying.
I would have to evaluate that because I don't know the cost of that, because currently just in our FOLs, the extra pay we pay right now is high, and that would come out of that budget, the community school budget. But that is something we would have to analyze.
It's just an idea, because I'm trying to come. I don't want to be just a person who's a no person. I want to come up with options, because I think the grant was well written. I don't think that's the problem. The question always comes down to me for the manager. I do think that it is concerning for our staff to be worked to the bone. I don't like that terminology. I'm going to always be concerned about that. We have to take care of our people to take care of our students. So that's just my position.
Then I would say the conversation we should be having is, how do we pay them more so that we don't have the restrictions that come with limiting the work hours, and then, quite frankly, the limitations from the collective bargaining agreement. That's really what it is, because that's what's going to control. And I haven't read it in the last 6 months. I don't remember if there's a limitation on the amount of hours.
So optional. So we can't say if we have a food distribution that's happening during their non-working times that they have to show up. So that's the other.
So there are additional limitations. I get it. By all means, I'm being very practical, and at some point it's like the item before us is either to approve this or not approve it. And if we want to continue the discussion, we need to ask for another item to come back to actually have all these questions and provide feedback to say, we don't like the grant you wrote, we want it to look differently, and provide that direction. So I move to approve the Student and Family Services Site Coordinator job description as presented.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, a second by Trustee Kirk. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
And those abstaining? Motion carries 6-1. Thank you. We move on to item number 4, approve 2025 ballot for CSBA Delegate Assembly. Superintendent Davis.
Thank you. This item returns from the last meeting. There are 4 open slots. You'll see 4 identified individuals. We do recommend that you take a vote so that it can be submitted to CSBA.
Any questions or comments from the public on this item? If not, just general discussion for the board. And just to obviously highlight, we have Trustee Kirfan on the delegate as a delegate as well. Trustee Kirk?
This is my first time with this procedure. Can we move to approve the 4 candidates that are on the ballot? Then I move to approve the 4 candidates on the ballot.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Kirk, a second by Trustee Carrillo. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining? Motion carries 7-0. We move to item number 5, approve the sale and disposal of surplus obsolete district property. Assistant Superintendent Iqbal.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Please see the updated list of the items that are surplus or obsolete. Administration is recommending the board to approve the sales and disposal of surplus and obsolete district items.
And if I can add, this does require unanimous vote of those present, which are all of you.
Questions or comments from the public? Then anything from anyone calling? Trustee Kirfan?
Thank you, President Singh. Assistant Superintendent Iqbal, I think I mentioned this during our last meeting. Several of the Chromebooks on this item were listed as we purchased them in May of 2023. Is that correct? I think there was an amendment.
We double checked. The date was 2016 or 2018. We updated the list. So there's one that was presented in the last board meeting, and then we updated the new list. So you have the updated list.
Okay, then. In that case, thank you.
I move to approve the sale and disposal of the surplus obsolete district property.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Kirfan. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We move on to our information items for this evening. Item number 1, receive information regarding Resolution 2425-38, authorizing the execution, delivery, and sale of 2025 certificates of participation. Assistant Superintendent Iqbal.
Okay, hello again. We have Mr. Mark Farrell from Dale, Scott & Company. He will help us, the district, to get a $50 million loan to complete the construction of visual and art performing building at Justin Garza High School. So Mr. Mark Farrell, he'll do a quick presentation, quick statement.
Good evening, President Singh, Trustees, Superintendent Davis. Not a formal presentation, but just kind of a little quick summary. As Assistant Superintendent Iqbal said, this is a $50 million COP to complete the VAPA building at Garza. The financing term currently anticipated to be about 30 years, maybe a little bit slightly less than 30 years. Interest rates are around 4.5% in the current market. We'll structure the payments. The district does have some existing COP payments, so we're going to structure the payments around that financing, those existing financings as best possible. Currently, the payments are around $3.8 million. In the short run, over the next 7 to 9 years, the payments will go up to about $6 million in total, and then drop back down to that $3.8 million level. I know you have a large stack of documents in the board agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions you have as you've reviewed those.
Trustee Sellers?
Just a real quick clarification. You said payments are annually about 3.7, and they will increase to about 6 million?
Sure. So the current payments for the existing district's financings are about 3.7.
Okay.
Kind of in the first 7 or so years will be interest only for this financing, adding about another 2.3 million. So
Okay.
bringing the total up to about 6 million.
And then they will drop back
And
down.
then once the payments on the old COPs really drop after around 2034, and then at that point, we'll be back down to that $3.7, $3.8 million level.
You said about 2034?
Yes, 2030, fiscal year 2035, 34, 35.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Farrell, for joining us this evening.
Can this return under consent, or do we need action?
It has to be action.
Okay.
So we'll return it under action at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to item number 2, receive information regarding the 2024-2025 second interim budget report. Assistant Superintendent Iqbal.
Okay, this is a placeholder for the second interim report, which will be presented on March 11 board meeting. So this is just a placeholder.
Thank you. We'll have it returned under action then. Next, item number 3, receive information regarding safe learning for all. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Lopez.
Hello again. So on January 28, 2025, the board requested information on what training is being provided to staff, administrative regulations, and what Central Unified is doing to protect students and inform family members on potential immigration rates happening in our community. So this item is brought to you tonight for review, as well as board policy was attached for your review. Gamut has been used to verify whether there is any updates to that board policy, and as of now, there isn't any. I do want to go over a couple of slides just showcasing what we've done as a district, and I want to start with the impact. So I first want to congratulate our staff for doing an incredible job at the school sites and welcoming our students and making sure that they feel safe. I also want to congratulate our team and the board for making immigration, understanding the impact of immigration and the issues happening in our community and how they impact the community, and for bringing forward the resolution at the opening of the year of this year. Having said that, our attendance is actually up. So we see an increase of attendance from prior year, from the last year. As I dug into immigration, our students that are here on not on immigration status, but it's the migrant program that we look at, considered migrant, theirs is higher, their attendance is higher than the general population right now, and has increased from last year as well by a little over 1% at this time of the year as well. When I look at the English language learner population, that has also increased from last year at this same time, and is also higher than the general population. So I'm very proud to say that right now. So I think that is a commitment to what we've done for our community, and our families feel safe, and they know that this is the safest place for our kids. Having said that, on December 17th, I attended a meeting at Fresno State. We were trying to get ahead of whatever was to come, to learn about board policies or administrative regulations that needed to be updated. We right away went into Gamut, started looking at all the policies that protect our immigrant community, and we updated an AR. So there was one AR that had an update and was taken to cabinet for approval, and it was approved. That helped us develop a plan, as well as a one-page guidance for the whole district to follow around what to do if immigration enforcement were to show up at a school and request information from our students. So that information was presented in January 6th to our district personnel. And that was adopted by our district, our cabinet meeting. It was presented to our administrators on January 13th. And it was sent out via high five to our whole team, district, and administrations at school sites. This was also provided to all our after-school program leads. Trainings were done for that. I'm not going to list everything there because I think you have access to that. But I just want to make you aware that every single lead position was presented with this one-page document, and the guidance specifically calls out if somebody shows up requesting access to records, you are to contact our department. And this is exactly what I told our families. We will show up to verify that that is accurate and that the right laws are being followed. Maisie Young is our director over student services, and I am overseeing student and family services. And we have been collaborating through this whole process to ensure that if any calls come in, we are the ones being contacted, and we are the ones going to the site to make sure our rights are protected, the student rights are protected. We also did Know Your Rights meetings. We did a total of 2, but those were also translated. We collaborated with our technology IT department, and they did an exceptional job at ensuring that we could translate on the spot and record the voice over the video that was done in English. I had to do it in English so it could be recorded in the different languages. Those videos were uploaded onto our website, so if anyone felt like they couldn't attend, they are able to view those videos now with all that information. I was able to collaborate with the Mexican consulate that was there to answer questions, and Centro La Familia, so they can provide more of the legal guidance outside of the district, and I could provide guidance as to what we're doing as a district. Some calls came in and questions from Zoom asking about what we're doing even in the parking lot. So these were questions that we would have not known had we not opened that platform. And we were able to respond to that. Like, we follow the same rules as if they were checking into our office. If they're there, they don't have a warrant subpoena, they have to leave our parking lot. That is still our property. So we were able to answer some of those questions. We also developed an ongoing document that all our FOLs have access to. So if any questions come to any of the schools, they're entering into that document, and I am overseeing it live with Nora Ceballos, and she collaborates with Centro La Familia if it's a legal question outside of our scope. And I, along with Maisie Young, collaborate on responding to answers pertaining to our district. And the questions come in every week, but we get them their answer right away, and our sites are able to communicate with those families and give them their response. Immigration Resources website is up and running. We hope you are able to take a look and see what we have there. It's updated as we go. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. We are asking for the board item that was requested, the board policy, to return for action in our next meeting.
Trustee Griffon?
Thank you, President Singh. Dr. Lopez, I first want to commend you for all the work you've been doing, especially these past 2 months, with regards to meeting with the community and organizations about protecting our immigrant student and family populations, and making sure that they know their rights. And I think the work you're doing is showing in the increase in attendance for those students. So I want to make sure that you know that as a board, we're thankful for the work you're doing, and we hope it continues.
Thank you.
I do also, as always, I'm wondering how we can do more as a district, because I know there's a real fear in our immigrant community, about immigration officials, doing untargeted sweeps, just going after everyone. And I worry about, the direction this country is facing, and how schools could be targeted. So I wonder, what is our communication policy if immigration law enforcement were to come to a site with or without a warrant?
Communication is sent through an EIR as well as through our catapult system. We have in place, there is a system we have in place for what needs to be communicated, especially if it's impacting our schools and our community.
Can you tell me more about this catapult program?
So catapult is the system that we use to let our community know if there is a warrant being served in the community that's causing harm to our school, or that may cause an unsafe environment to our school. So that would be the format. There's
a wide variety of instances that could be considered a safety threat to students, and we inform them. Do we have a policy or written procedure for implementing immigration law enforcement as one of these safety concerns to families?
So it follows the same policy around reporting of anyone coming to request information. So we would disclose that to the parent. That is the first step. We have to make sure the parent is aware that somebody's trying to request information from their student. Now, in regards to reporting, if it happens within our school site, we have a procedure in place for reporting of any unlawful or activity that needs to be sent to our district.
So
personnel as well as
do we have a written policy that would communicate to district-wide families if immigration law enforcement was at a school site? Do we have that written policy?
We have a policy around communication to our families if there is a concern at our school sites, and we use EIR for within our district, and we use Catapult to our families.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. In that case, at our next board meeting, I'll probably include language on this item to include that as one of the instances where we would implement this Catapult program, because I think that would help keep families safe and together if we had this kind of rapid response communication. Thank you.
I think Superintendent Davis wanted to provide a little bit more clarification.
I want to clarify. Catapult is our internal system that we use for our employees when there's an emergency on a campus or throughout the district that gives an alert. It has the potential to do other things down the road, but right now it's a system that we get an alert immediately, can call, and around a campus you would know on that campus. So it is alerting, but it's an internal right now. What if I can connect? Yeah,
yes, I'm so sorry.
Parent Square is when we have an enforcement, a lockdown. You've seen these come through. If there's an EIR, there is then a notification. It goes through our communications office and goes out to that campus for that. I think that was the intent of bringing the board policy here, is if there's direction or specific reporting requirements, maybe that are, I'd heard there's some that are different at the community college level than they are at our district. There's legislation coming down the way around this. This would be the spot that we put it, which is why it's in front of you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. So with that understanding, then, if there was like a lockdown, we have that rapid outward external communication to families through Parent Square, right?
Yes, and I apologize. So
No
when
worries.
it comes to us, then we work with the site to create the Parent Square. So I apologize.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be in communication with our superintendent, but I am looking to bring some language forward on having this kind of external communication for immigration law enforcement, potentially through Parent Square or others. We'll hammer out the details at our next meeting.
Trustee Carrillo?
So what I would like to propose, if there's consensus from the board and consistent with what Trustee Kerfan is saying, is at the community college level and higher education, because it also includes private institutions and I think and specific requirements for CSUs and UCs. If there is an immigration agent on campus for any reason, the district is required to confirm. What the law requires is that we send notice to the community, which typically includes the students and the staff, to say immigration is on campus, they arrived at this time, and now they've left at this time, and to include who is the person who is responsible for interacting with the immigration enforcement. There's a lot of additional procedures that go into that, but that's kind of the summary of it. There is proposed legislation, which I do believe will get passed and does have, I believe the last time I checked, an urgency clause, which would require similar language. And so I will endeavor timely to propose some language amendments to our board policy that would include something along those lines, that would say components of verifying that it is in fact immigration law enforcement, and that then we're communicating that information to our community. Because I think one of the critical components of this is there's a lot of misinformation that's occurring, and we as educational institutions are really looked at to say, we rely on you, we expect you to provide accurate information, and we want to make sure that our students continue to feel safe on campus. And it's not a matter of rumors or they're seeing vehicles. I receive emails and text messages all the time. And so it's important for us to be able to then dispel that and say, no, you can count on us providing you this information. And I think it would be really helpful. So I will be providing some of that language, and I will make sure to send that to Superintendent Davis to share it with all of you, and you can provide your feedback. But that's what I would envision, to use whatever existing system we already have just to provide that basic information. And then, of course, our current policy already requires that the superintendent or designee report to us immediately if there's any request for information or access by law enforcement agency seeking to enforce immigration laws. So I would just ask, we already get the EIRs just to make sure that we're getting those via text, because I read my text messages much faster than an email. As you all can imagine, I get thousands of emails. So that would just be really helpful. Thanks.
Well said, Trustee Creel. I concur.
So we'll provide a few changes, and we'll have this return under action at the next meeting. Thank you. Next, item number 4, receive information regarding LCAP mid-year update from Director Grigsby. And a reminder, this is information only.
Good evening. A very tall person stood here. It's my pleasure tonight to bring you the LCAP mid-year report. The report itself is attached to the board agenda, and we also have a summary slide deck for you real quick to go through. Do I have a clicker? I don't have a clicker. All right, there we go. So, good evening, President Singh, Superintendent Davis, board members. It's my pleasure to bring this report to you. The background of this, I have to click the thing. Here we go. Background is Senate Bill 114 in 2023. After return to school, CDE had acknowledged that there were some communication gaps. We approved LCAP in June of each school year, and then we weren't hearing again from districts, or the community wasn't hearing again from districts until later in the spring when we revisited and did our analysis and evaluation. So the Senate enacted a Bill 114 to require districts to do what they call a mid-year monitoring update report. So we're just reporting all mid-year data that we have, where we are in implementation of actions and expenditures through first interim. So that's what you'll be seeing in front of you. The implementation status and expenditure status that you'll see will be categorized into basically 3 buckets. Not started or implemented yet, partially implemented, or ongoing and fully implemented. An example of the ongoing and fully implemented would be like appropriately credentialed teachers. Obviously, we're going to have that continuing on throughout all of our LCAP plans, so you'll see that. So we're just looking now at the various stages of each of those actions in the existing plan that we're currently implementing, where we're at in that implementation and expenditure. So we've summarized some core metrics here for you just on our performance, how we're measuring, how we're doing. Obviously, the mid-year report that you have attached is 68 pages. So we've looked at what we call the core metrics, which are basically reading, math, English language arts, writing, all of those things. So we've got some core metrics here for you, and a little cheat sheet off to the side for the abbreviation so you could see it all on one slide. And we've broken it down by our demographic groups that are required reporting. For this measure goes from last year's California dashboard to the one just populated in December of this year based on the 2024 Smarter Balanced Assessment. Here you'll see the same or similar metrics reporting for math, again for all students, and then broken down by our significant subgroups. The newest of those you will see is the LTEL group, the long-term English language learners that are now being reported out on their own. So not just English learners as a subgroup, but long-term English learners, which is 5 years or more in program. College career indicator is something we look at closely. Getting ahead of myself here. We are currently in differentiated assistance based on the 2023 dashboard for students experiencing homelessness and students with disabilities in this area. So we track this very carefully. English Learner Progress Indicator, or ELPI as we call it, is also here. We are not in differentiated assistance for that, but we do keep a close watch on that because we feel that's a really high indicator of how kids will reclassify and become true bilinguals as they go through our schools. Let's see. And then here you see reclassification rate and CTE completion rate. That's completion of a pathway by students from enrollment till when they finish. If you see the asterisk, that just means the subgroup is too small for us to report to protect their privacy. Going into Goal 2, we're talking about ensuring equitable and engaging opportunities for all of our kids. Again, you see chronic absenteeism and graduation rate are some of our core metrics in this goal. Lower is better on chronic absenteeism, so when you're seeing those numbers go down, that's a good thing. And graduation rate is, as you can see, inching up, and all of our subgroups are broken down. We're looking at English learner group, foster youth, low income, and students with disabilities currently identified as the groups that we're reporting on. And then further metrics here are the credentialed teachers as measured by the TAMO report. We dropped down slightly in this area, so that just is a reflection of the teacher shortage we experience statewide. But at 84.7%, we're still well ahead of the state average for highly credentialed teachers. Our attendance rate, as Dr. Lopez mentioned earlier, is at or above where we were at this point last year based on our internal Skillzilla data keeping. And then moving into Goal 3, we'll foster safe and inclusive schools. I think this goal is more important today than it ever has been. It's always been important, but I think it has relevance really to right now. We measure our most of this metric is measured by not only our facilities and our technology indicators, but we also look at climate. As measured by our panorama survey. You can see local surveys spring 2024 compared to the survey that was administered in fall 2024. We do not have staff or teacher data at this point because we only administer that once a year to staff and teachers. Students and family members take it spring and fall, so we can compare those. As you can see, positive climate has improved in both of those areas, and they'll start taking that panorama survey. Everybody will take it one more time starting in March. So I'll have more data for you coming soon. And here's the school safety numbers. Again, perception of school safety is increased for students and family members. And teachers and staff was not administered in the fall, but I can tell you spring to spring it has increased. If you looked at spring 2023 to spring 2024, it's gone up. Not a lot, but slightly. And then again, suspension rate, remember, lower is better. And so we want to see those numbers going down, and we've seen some really good gains there. And expulsion rate has maintained at 0.1%. Goals 4 through 8 are what we call our equity multiplier schools. So just a reminder that that's new to the district and new to the state, actually, for everybody. And these are school sites meeting non-stability criteria and socioeconomically disadvantaged pupil thresholds in the prior year. So these schools were identified in spring of last year, and we wrote, we were required to write goals in our LCAP and add those to it. And then those goals are mirrored in their school plans as well. And so I visit with those principals regularly, and we're getting ready to get back again because we will be doing some community engagement and getting input from all of their community and educational partners because they'll write again moving forward. We haven't been notified of this year's equity multiplier schools qualifying. They said late February. And here we are. And so I'll let you know when I know. But we anticipate it sometime within the next couple of weeks. We'll know what schools will continue on. It's a year-to-year funding. There's no expiration date. So they have all the time they need to spend it on the kids that are qualified for it. And those schools are listed right there. Class, online homeschool, pathway, both of the pathways, and Pershing High School. As we move through the spring, it is LCAP season, so we'll continue with our engagement with our educational partners through the end of March. We'll come together and draft our update for the school year, which will include an analysis of existing action and goals. This will be preparing for next year's plan, so we're looking at implementation and updating year 2 of a 3-year plan. So this year is the first year of this particular local control accountability plan. It'll come to you for it'll go out to the community in May. We'll meet with our district English language advisory committee, our parent advisory committee, our migrant parent advisory committee. All of those folks will give comments to the superintendent, which Mrs. Davis will respond to. We'll post all of that toward the end of May, along with the plan being available in draft form. For public comment for the May 19th through the 30th is what we're anticipating, and then you'll get to see it officially on your board agenda after we've gathered all that input from and comment after the fact on the draft, and that'll come to you twice in June, both for information, public hearing, and adoption. Then we give it to Fresno County, and they give us their feedback on it, and ultimately receive a letter from the superintendent of schools at Fresno County approving our plan. So, bright spots. Suspension rates have declined. You can see the subgroups there that we're focusing on, and all of them experienced an improvement in not being suspended. It's a double negative, but you get the point. Unduplicated students increased performance slightly on math from year to year, and attendance rates continue to rise. And our local student survey data is showing that their student perception of positive school climate is increased by 3.5%, and school safety is increased by 1.5%. We still have challenges. We know that. Our dashboard in English language arts is maintained in an orange indicator, but we did notice that unduplicated students have experienced achievement gaps still. So even though, well, all kids have kind of maintained, we still notice that there are gaps for our underrepresented kiddos. The math dashboard showed slight improvement moving into the yellow indicator, but again, we noticed that subgroups of students are not performing as well as all students when compared to the whole, and we see those gaps, and we know that we still have work to do there. And then our English learner progress indicator that I mentioned earlier, again, maintained and actually decreased slightly, even though we statistically stayed in the maintained category. It regressed a little bit, so we want to make sure that that does not continue, and better that it actually moves forward. So that'll be things that we're taking into consideration as we go through spring and do our analysis of the existing actions in our plan. That's all I have for you right now, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director Grigsby. Trustee Carrillo?
Thank you. So a couple of questions. You went through where we go from here, but can you specifically articulate how we use the challenges we've identified to ensure that that is, if at all, leading the discussion with our communities and our various groups to say, how can we do better and how can we improve? Because ultimately, what's frustrating with the LCAP is this is a template that we have to comply and we have to identify, and the goal setting and our measuring points are always very vague, and there's a lot of subjectiveness to them, which is frustrating, maybe just for me. But I just want to better understand how we're using this information to do better. And then one of the second question I have is, are we going to be offering the additional meetings for the LCAP also via Zoom, or holding different sessions for our families who aren't comfortable or feel safe being on our campuses?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We are currently in the midst of those LCAP town halls. We have offered remote Zoom participation for all of our meetings, and we'll continue to do so. Our IT team, I have to give a shout out. They've done a very professional job of offering the webinar features, and we have had remote participants in every single session that we've held so far. And what we did in this year's engagement with our community is we have the community-based organizations that we discussed earlier are also at the town hall meetings. After they have that initial interaction with the families, we've invited them to come to the tables and be part of the discussion process so they can see our families and our families can see them. I took them through in the slide deck that I do with the community. I take them through all of those differentiated assistant points that I just kind of glossed over here for y'all because you're familiar with them. And I show them exactly where those actions exist district-wide, and then they're sitting with their principals, and I gave them some reflective questioning. So their principals are then saying, okay, this is what it looks like at Biola. This is what it looks like at Rio Vista. And they're actually answering those questions with their parents sitting and families sitting there at the table in real time. And then we have a 5-question analytical from Parsec, a data analytical survey to give them just specifically about those areas where we know we need improvement: math, ELA, sense of inclusion, safety, engagement, those types of things. So those questions, I worked very closely with the data analytical experts at Parsec to make sure we crafted those questions so it would elicit, number one, it would be easy for the parents and the community to understand. It wouldn't be in what I call education-ese. And so they would know what we were really asking them to tell us. And giving them that opportunity for all that discussion in advance, I think really has helped our participation. We've really seen the participation in those surveys go up. And then we push them out again the next day in case you missed us or you thought of something that you've forgotten, and we push it out in Parent Square the next day as well.
Thank you. And I do just want to also take the opportunity to commend our staff across from our district office to our teachers in the classroom. Decreasing the suspension rate is really significant. I've been on this board for 6 years, and granted, the composition at this table, this long table, including our superintendent, was very different. And the struggle that I had in having people understand the importance of making sure our students are in the classroom and we're doing more restorative justice was huge and difficult because they disagreed with me. But here we are, and we're seeing that there's still a lot more progress to make as far as our ELA and some of our other areas. But thank you for listening and for staying faithful to the process and really focusing on what our students need and how we can support them. So, thanks.
Of course.
Thank you. We next turn to item number 5, receive information regarding Just Once in Colorado Elementary Athletics Uniform and Equipment Quotes. Director Hightower.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Board President Singh. Board of Trustees, tonight I bring you an item to purchase uniforms and equipment for Colorado Elementary for the upcoming season next year. We're excited for that new elementary school starting the athletic program. They will receive new uniforms and equipment for fall, winter, and spring programs. The cost of those uniforms and equipment is $84,417.36. The uniforms and equipment will be purchased through BSN Sports using the Omnia contract. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the March 11th board agenda for action after any questions you may have.
Yeah.
Can you just briefly mention, they don't have colors and a mascot yet, so this is the get it started, right?
Yes, this is to get it started, get it approved, and then as soon as the mascot and colors are approved, then we'll go through purchasing.
Thank you. Trustee Kirfan, Sellers in the Creo.
Thank you, Trustee President Singh. Director Hightower, what is our process for picking the colors and mascot for these athletic teams?
So the principal, along with students, will get together and be a part of that process. Once our department gets it, then we will give the vendor those colors on the mascot, and they'll begin producing uniforms.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Trustee Sellers.
Thanks. In regards to uniforms, on average, how many positions are on each team's roster?
For elementary football, it varies between 15 to 30 kids. It depends on the size of the school and how many kids participate in each sport. I would say basketball, volleyball, typically 15 to 20 kids per team. Track and field, I would say most likely over in between 50 to 60 to 100 kids participating in cross country and track and field. So it kind of varies depending on the sport.
Okay. So are we ordering a variety of each sizes and enough? I'm asking just as a parent who's got a smaller petite daughter who was given a extra large jersey and said, this is what we got.
Yeah, we base it off of what our other elementary schools do, but the cool thing about BSN, they produce their own uniforms, so we can get a uniform within 4 weeks.
Okay. Thanks.
Trustee Creo.
Thank you. So I think this is the first time that I've ever seen a contract for uniforms since I've been on the board. So I'm wondering, once we do purchase, obviously this is a new school, we'll purchase all these uniforms. Do we have a timeline or some process to then replace uniforms, or how does that work to make sure that we maintain it? I probably haven't seen one because the cost is much smaller in buying 10 or 15 uniforms than having to supply a whole elementary school. But I'm curious what processes we have in place, if you know them, to then make sure that we have the necessary sizes and for all of our students.
Yeah, so there's a check-in process after each season, and then those uniforms are evaluated by our team, and then if we need to replace uniforms because of damages, we will do so.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
If no other questions, we'll have this returned under consent.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Director Hightower. Next, we move to advanced planning. I think I'll probably just have one request, potentially some point in March and April, since we were talking about just once in Colorado Elementary, if we could just get an update, potentially from Director Rodriguez, just in terms of how the facilities are looking, and make sure we're on track for a complete school opening in the fall.
President Singh, how do you pronounce the name again?
Jaswant Singh Kalra.
Thank you.
Any additional information or closing comments? And with that, our next meeting of the board will be held here Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for closed session, 7 p.m. for public here at the Central Unified District Office, room 13. Thank you and good night. And we'll be reconvening and we'll be adjourning back to close. Thank you.